Hello, friends. There's more friends today. I have with me Nettles and Greyways Tim. Say hello all at once, chaotically.
Wah! Wah!
Hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you
So
for
we,
having me back.
yeah, totally. You guys are two of my favorite guests, and it gets lonely up here. Dragon gets lonely doing it by himself all the time. So I thought we'd mix it up today. Damon is so fun to talk about. I didn't want to hoard it all to myself. So just to get it started, I've ranted about Damon a bunch lately on Twitter and in both of my little videos about having watched episode one. Of course, in case you missed it, I've seen episode one, and I can only say so much. I said as much as I can, and probably a little bit more, in a 2 hour episode one. No spoilers, mild spoilers review that you can check out on the stream. But Daemon Targaryen was one of the biggest takeaways of the episode. Just like, wow, Matt Smith's, I'm going to try not to say Matt Damon too many times, but Matt Smith's portrayal of Daemon Targaryen is something that everyone's going to be talking about. So today we're going to talk about all things Daemon. It's just a general get to know the character kind of stuff. And I've got two Daemon enthusiasts with me here to give their take. So Nettles, you're fired up, so go ahead and tell me what you like about Daemon. Obviously, you cosplay Nettles, who is
Yes.
one of the lady loves of Daemon Targaryen. But tell me what do you love about Daemon?
No, yeah. I mean, obviously, I identify with Nettles, so I just have a love for Damon. But I remembered there was actually shout out to Gray Area. She did a video a while back where she said that Damon was basically Tyrion and Jamie put together. And we all love Tyrion and Jamie. So that kind of clicked with me because when you're reading Fire and Blood, those are those two characters, like in Fire and Blood, in one person. So just quickly, like Damon is like Tyrion because he hangs out in Flea Bottom. He hangs out with the whores. He's with the common folk. Like he doesn't think that he's better than them.
Okay,
Type of thing.
The Jamie one was obvious. I've called him
And
Jamie
then the Jamie,
Targaryen, even like, but older and more actualized. But the flea bottom part is very Tyrion, and he's also ruthlessly effective, like Tyrion is too, isn't he?
exactly. And then of course the Jamie parallel being knighted at 16, dark sister. Like so, as soon as I like read him, he left off the page, and I was like, yeah, this is my guy. And the fact that the Jamie and Tyrion parallels just makes him lovable.
Well, so he's definitely like, in that's a good comparison. Think about how fun Tyrion and Jamie are to read. You don't always like them. You certainly don't always approve of the things they do, but they are very fun to read. And Damon is going to be fun to watch. He's got some unintentional humor, kind of, where
Yeah,
you laugh at what he does, even though he's not trying to be funny. You're just like, here's our Damon. So there's going to be a lot of that kind of stuff going on.
air for a day. Like he was the guy I would have hung out with in high school. Like I could see us at the cafeteria table, making fun of the nerds, giving people swirlies in the bathroom.
Nerds. Damon would have given out many swirlies. Now, Gray Waste Tim, you have named your cat Damon, so obviously
What?
you are a Damon
Yeah.
enthusiast. So show us the cat.
Damon, hi.
And today, possibly, it's Damon's first birthday. That's a big reason I wanted to do a Damon stream. I got him. I adopted him from Lehigh Humane Society right before Halloween. They said he was about 12 weeks old, so that would make his birthday sometime in late July. So I'm calling it as the end of the month just for simplicity's sake. So this is Damon's birthday stream, too.
Today's his birthday. Yes, yeah.
Black as Midnight was Damon the cat, reminding us of Balerion the cat, named after Balerion the Black Dread, another black cat with a dragon name. So
That was Damon's Halloween costume. I got him little dragon wings. He doesn't let me put them on him anymore.
very good. And just real quick, guys, I have not done guests on this streaming software a whole bunch, so let me know if there's any lag, if there's any audio feedback or uneven volume or anything like that. This is a little bit of I'm going to be doing guests more often going forward, so this is a little bit of a tester and see how it works kind of a thing. So let me know in the chat. I do have slow mode on. That just means you have to wait 30 seconds in between messages. It's not too burdensome. It's just to keep it, from going too nuts, to give the mods a chance to stay on top of things. That's definitely going to be a lot of nuts chats. Once the season starts, it'll be over 1,000 all the time, and it'll be crazy. So good times. And that was kind of just to reiterate my bottom line takeaway, having seen the first episode, is just that it's really good. It's good enough to where we're going to be able to enjoy it. Me as a YouTuber, us as YouTubers, we'll be able to cover it, sink our teeth into it. There's lots to talk about. And I think we'll be able to trust the show as far as it goes. Like not to sort of...
Good.
It does sound good, doesn't it?
That's all I want to hear, is that we can trust.
I think so. I really think so. It doesn't mean everything will be perfect and we'll agree with everything, but it looks like it's going to be great. And I think that was the biggest feeling, like the excitement, but also relief. Like, this is going to be, some fresh air in the fandom, if you want to say it that way, or just for those of us who love the story, it's just going to be fun. We're not going to be cringing and being disappointed and doing so much of that. I think it'll be more talking about things excitedly. So, yeah.
And given how much involved George is with this and how much of a fan of the books Ryan Condal is, like, I think we can feel safe saying what happens in the show is can be on the same level as canon as what happens in the books.
It does seem that way. There will be changes, timeline changes here and there, but like, for example, the big issue, everything that's been talked about this week, is the Targaryen prophecy idea. Is there a secret that Viserys, because Paddy Considine said it at the Comic-Con, Viserys has a secret about the end of the world, and then everyone remembered that George had talked about maybe Aegon saw it coming, meaning the Long Night, and maybe that had something to do with why he conquered Westeros. I have a video about that, Long Night Prophecy, check it out, but everyone's talking about it, and so is that canon? Like, yes, that kind of stuff, I think we can interpret it, and I 99% sure, I'd love to hear George say specifically, but the fact that Ryan Condal, who's writing the scripts, is bouncing them off George in the process, and that George is executive producing it, that means that the big stuff like that, this is not HBO, Dave and Dan freelancing, whatever, and Arya sailed around the world, we thought that was cool, and, whatever.
All
so
of a sudden, what's west of Westeros?
I actually think that wasn't the worst part of their ending. I just pulled that out of thin air, but
it wasn't. But yeah, and I'm excited because House of the Dragon, they have the money. That's what kind of makes me trust them as well. Like, whatever dragon fights, whatever their imaginations can dream of, they have the money to back it up. So yeah. I'm excited. And
of course, those of you who are into the filming stuff, they're using the same thing that Mandalorian did with a 360 virtual screen, essentially, to where they can create sets in this room, but then have the CGI background like behind the actors, so that they can mix in like real effects like fog and wind over in front of the stuff. It's pretty impressive. If you want to, there's a lot of videos about it if you want to look that up. But the result looked pretty good to me. Like in a couple of the promo teasers that we've seen a lot of shots of the filming, like the joust. You could see him jousting with the green screen behind. And I've seen, some of the finished products of the stuff that we've seen filmed in those things. And yeah, it looks great. And for those of you asking, the dragons look more polished, of course, all that. But so with Damon, Tim, I was chatting with you the other day about Damon, and I loved the way that you characterized him from the beginning. You read the little bit from the Rogue Prince, the sort of the introduction of Damon, and then you talked about how he always wins. Do you have that section? Looks like you do. You want to go ahead and get us started with that bit?
Yeah. So.
I'm sorry, Tim. Sorry, Tim. We had 2 super chats come in before the stream started. Let me get those so that we,
Yeah, Yeah, before
thank
they
people
disappear.
for the money that they're sending us. That's what we do here in the big leagues. we try to, no, I'm kidding. Let me get here. I've got my mods on top of it, guys. So if you send in a super chat and it gets missed, you want to talk to one of the mods who are in blue, and they will snag it and get it to me. I've got a little doc going, et cetera, et cetera.
Hey, Carl. Hey, Minty. Hey, everybody.
Yeah. Why is this not loading with dark mode? This is offensive to my eyes. That's better. Okay. Okay, so the ones that came in earlier, we had Marvin Martin. Marvin Martin, if witches okay, I'm not going to do that. That hurts. Poisoned Maegor and Dany's babies. Who poisoned Daemon's daughter? Okay, right. Let's see. Of course, Daemon is a slightly modified version of the word demon, although Daemon's different thing in folklore a little bit. Aemond is Daemon with the switch D. Well, some people have pointed out to that switch D on the name as a clue that Aemond One Eye is the son of Daemon and Alicent and not Viserys and Alicent. He's got the extra D, you see. I don't know if that's... Now, that is an interesting theory with the casting of Aemond One Eye looking so much like Daemon. What are your thoughts on that, Nettles?
I never thought that reading the book, but seeing the casting, now I'm starting to think maybe.
Yeah, somebody mentioned the first time it was mentioned to me, I was like, what? You know, because I think I dismissed that rumor of Daemon and Alicent. It just didn't seem like one of the more valid rumors, but I don't know. We'll see.
That would be so spicy.
Now the question: what's your opinion on that one, Greyways, Tim? Just real quick on that theory.
I like it. I like the idea that Daemon is actually Aemond One Eye's real dad. And when we were talking earlier, I pointed out how like the Aegon Aemon brother naming combo happens a lot. Yet this is not Aemon; it's Aemond. It's got that final D at the end. So it's like it just makes it that much more of an outlier, because if he was Aemon to Aegon II, that would make a lot more sense. But for some reason, there's just that last D.
It's got the extra D.
Yeah, it's just tacked on there at the end.
And by the way, the shirt I'm wearing, it's a warrior shirt. It says the Bay, and it has a dragon. And of course, Daemon Targaryen is the dragon of Blackwater Bay. So that's... Okay, so now what the question is talking about is potentially... So there's Targaryen lizard babies. There are several of them. And one of them is Daemon and Rhaenyra's child that Rhaenyra miscarries. Daemon also has a lizard baby with Laena as well.
Two.
That's because Daemon is a true dragon. The true dragon has they're frickin' lizard people, guys. They're lizard people. Like, that's the whole thing. We talked about Targaryen supremacy recently from a more social perspective, but it's important to remember that these are lizard people. And the whole incest thing, it's like, yeah, to maintain the dragon bond, it's less about the looks and more about hardcore magical workings. Like, they have this reptilian magical blood that allows them to bond with dragons, and they need to keep a certain amount of it in the bloodline. So when they marry out to other houses, they weave it back in through the dragon-blooded houses to sort of keep that going. So the question is, do the lizard babies perhaps come out as the result of malfeasance? Because Mirri Maz Duur obviously may have screwed with Dany's baby, might have had motive to, although I don't know how you turn a healthy baby into a lizard baby. We didn't see it also. Jorah saw it, so we take that as credible, but there's a little bit of gray area there. Maegor, there's the question of tie-in of the tower. Was she messing with Maegor? I think Maegor, but also Maegor may have been conceived with magic by Visenya, right? So
yeah.
Everyone's not in their head, yes. So
I always looked at Maegor as like the Rosemary's Baby parallel of the whole thing.
What do you mean?
Just because, like, okay, so Aegon Aegon the Conqueror only has two sons with his two sister wives, but the one that he has Aenys is so different from him. He's like smaller, sickly, and that's born of the sister who also had liaisons with numerous other men. And then Visenya, she doesn't get pregnant with Maegor until 12 years in. So it takes a long time for her to get pregnant. So one thing that always stuck out to me is I always got the impression that Aegon the Conqueror was shooting blanks, and that neither Aenys nor Maegor are really his children. That Aenys is probably the son of someone else.
Because Rhaenys was sleeping around. We know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and with Visenya, that Maegor is some kind of like science experiment gone wrong.
I like that idea a lot.
That he could never have a child that, you know, came out normal and made it past the cradle.
Tim, the next oh, sorry, go ahead, Nettles. Okay, well, I was just gonna it's multiple people on a stream. We'll get used to it. I was just gonna say the next level of that theory is that it's the black dragons that are like radioactive, and that people that ride black dragons can't have children. Maegor rode Balerion. And then Dany rides the black dragon, and she like can't have kids, you know, supposedly because of Mary Mazdor, and maybe she can, and who knows, but that's just tinfoil. But Nettles, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say with the Maegor parallel, it's kind of like Harry Potter, Voldemort's mom. She makes him out of a love potion, and because of that, like he can't experience love, and that kind of reminds me of Maegor, the fact that like if he was made using magic or something, that's why his personality is like that, and why he's sterile as well.
Because like even when Maegor's born, that's a big baby. They say like when he was born.
It's like ooh, the spell worked a little too well. Kind of like in Office Space where they try to, you know, the algorithm, they're supposed to round off the change from the transactions, and they round off way too much, and they steal a whole bunch of money. In any case. Let's get through a couple more of these super chats so we can talk about some of the stuff on Grey Waste Tim's excellent outline. Marvin Martin, again, how did poor and homeless Nettles get so much sheep during the taming? Makes sense for wild animals, and seeds are part Targaryen, so why doubt over her heritage? Well, how did you find so many sheep on Dragonstone there, Nettles?
We never said they were my sheep. We never said that I bought them. We only said that I gave the sheep to Sheepstealer.
Well, that's the whole thing. Like,
I could have sang a song like the Pied Piper and had the sheep come follow me to a trail. So I'm curious. This is why I'm into the House of Dragons. I'm curious to see how they explain this.
I do think that is a lot of the fun of House of the Dragon, is we have all these little small details of these people that the writers are all going to brainstorm and expand upon. So yeah, Nettles, like, we should meet her like tending sheep, or better yet, stealing sheep. Because I was going to say, like dragon, like rider. So the name Sheepstealer maybe isn't just the dragon. Maybe that's Nettles stealing the sheep. So I don't mind stealing sheep. Oh, sorry. I'm going to sing that once in a while. Can't wait till she gets here. I think the question over her heritage is just to like make us not completely sure about how the dragon bond works. I think that's the idea, is just to introduce both the question of like people can still have Valyrian blood even though they don't look Valyrian, like Brown Ben Plum also. And also the idea of like maybe you can tame a dragon through conventional means, you know, just giving it food and Pavlovian, you know, whatever. So
yeah. And now with the casting of the sea snake also raises the question of there might have been black Valyrians, so maybe she can have like some other
that's true.
Valyrian, like ancient Valyrian heritage, not Valerian, but
well, we don't know obviously how they're going to explain the Velaryons. So, however they do that backstory, that could definitely it makes sense to make it fit with Nettles, wouldn't it? Yes, it would. So, yeah, that's cool. Is she on Driftmark or Dragonstone? Driftmark. Okay, I thought so. So there you go. And that's another reason why, again, you know, the people that are objecting to the Velaryon casting, it's like we've already got canonically black dragon riders on Driftmark. So it's not really that big of a stretch. But anyways, let's not go over that again. Miss M Dubs says Septon Barth dragons, verms, and wyverns. Will it appear in House of the Dragon at all? Still intact in this era, right up until Baelor the Blessed? I'm going to guess that yes. Ryan Condal seems to be a big fan of this sort of dragon trivia stuff. We can see from the brazier that heats up the egg that's like for preparing it. Like they're going into all this Targaryen dragon stuff. They're not chopping it out. They're playing it up. So I do think we should see books, either that one or a similar type of book. And we've already seen they're using books as exposition from the preview with Rhaenyra reading a book under the tree. And of course, we know Alicent read books to Jaehaerys. So that's another plot point they can.
She did other things too, not just reading books.
So yeah, we got over 420 watching. Car snark. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Will the gore be worse than Game of Thrones? It'll be at least as bad. As far as well, I will say this: Game of Thrones wandered into what I would call, a lot of people call violence porn, meaning just shock porn, just for the sake of being shocking. I didn't get those vibes from the first episode, but it will be gory in the way that, like, when you first started watching Game of Thrones, it didn't take too many episodes before you're like, wow, this is a very adult show. This is not something that kids should watch. And that's definitely the case once again. So yeah, it's not. The
Battle of Singleton, like, I almost don't even want to see that with how it's described in the books.
It's going to be, and it makes, what I saw in the first episode makes me think they're going to go there pretty much. So yeah, I think people will be riveted, but also like,
but that's also the point. Like, war isn't like the honorable thing that we think of. Like,
indeed,
and this war isn't a war with like drones either, where you can kind of like, which is our version of war. I like the gore because it always makes me remember that our freedom costs something, war costs something. So I like the gore porn. I'm problematic.
Well, I guess when I affix the word porn to it, it means it's trying to draw a difference between simply, well, we're dealing with war, so we have to show the cost of.
Hello.
So we have to show the cost of war, versus like just adding extra gory stuff just so people will go ooh and talk about it. Like, it's a subjective thing. I always use the question of Ramsay. Okay. So I feel like George is a skilled horror writer, and I'm looking at my bird. I'm going to go grab the bird in a second. But with Ramsay and Theon, you don't have scenes describing Theon getting his skin peeled off, ever. But the inner monologue of Theon trying not to remember getting his skin peeled off is disturbing. It's probably more disturbing than reading what would be the violence porn, meaning rubbing your face in the visceral description of the torture. And so George is trying to deal with the psychological shock of the torture, not the sheer violence of it. Whereas on the screen, we saw them spend a lot of time with, the woman coming towards Theon with a hook knife. Oh, we're going to chop off your dick now. Here's the sausage, or chop off your dick now. And like, it was like 5 episodes of him on the cross and all this stuff. Like, so that's kind of the difference, to me anyways. But hang on.
Woo! I'll put on this. I want to put on this while you read.
That's awesome. It really works with the neck collar too. That's fantastic.
When you said Blood of the Dragon, I wasn't playing.
All right. Well, you're bringing it. Tim, you got to up your game, buddy.
My master hanging up. I have my red lacquer mask from my Shadowbinder cosplay, but I have it hanging up as decoration right now.
That's not bad. That's not bad. You do have the cute cat though. That counts for something. So Gunnar Dan says, good thing about the show, you can read the book in such a cool way and see the Maester's lies and their bias towards the characters that they agree with. Yeah, I mean, I've been talking about it a whole bunch. And actually, I've been listening to Preston Jacobs' series over analyzing House of the Dragon, which is like 9 parts deep. And he's really, I have to compliment him. He's really got an eye for picking apart the lies and contradictions. much sharper than I do. Like he's pointing at stuff and I'm just like, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. You're right. It doesn't always go somewhere, but just a hat tip to Preston. I've not always been a fan of like his old like sci-fi theories, and so a lot of people think that I'm like anti-Preston. That's not true. I'm a fan of his work and especially his House of the Dragon stuff. So just want to give him a shout out. He entertained me on my recent drive home from picking up these birds from the Bird Hotel, which is like 2 hours away. In any case, Gabe the Griffin, 11-month squish remember. Oh, sorry. What'd you say, Nettles?
I thought you were going to say on your drive home from Australia.
That'd be a long drive. Of course I put the birds in the hotel when I go to Australia, so there's a drive at the end of it. Gabe the Griffin, Girl Nettles looking like a queen over here. Quick in and out. We'll be back online and settled before House of the Dragon drops. Big love, Myth fam. So shout out to you, Nettles, from Gabe the Griffin. Kelly Johnson, will the Valerian genetic program ever be revealed? Probably. I do think they might get into stuff like that on House of the Dragon. That has not been specifically referred to in what we've seen, but just the fact that they're going deeper into the Targaryen lore, and like you said, it's before Baelor the Blessed burned all the books. So there's more knowledge available right now. So we'll have to see, Kelly, but because George is so closely involved with it, it gives them the opportunity to tell us more about the world that, like we said, would be canonical. So, Rob Castleton, thanks for the episode. Praise Darth Garth. All right. So, flipping back over to your outline, Tim, why don't you introduce this Daemon Targaryen fellow as he is introduced in The Rogue Prince?
All right. So, this is a quote from Maester Gildane. He was the grandson of a king, the brother of a king, husband to a queen. 2 of his sons and 3 of his grandsons would sit the Iron Throne, but the only crown that Daemon Targaryen ever wore was the crown of the Stepstones, a meager realm he made himself with blood and steel and dragon fire, and soon abandoned. And then I also pulled up the second famous quote about Daemon. In his day, there was not a man so admired, so beloved, and so reviled in all Westeros. He was made of light and darkness in equal parts. To some, he was a hero. To others, the blackest of villains.
So there you go. One thing I will say about Damon is that, I read that description of him and I was like, okay. And then I read the actions that he did and I was like, he's mostly just an asshole. Okay, that was my first, that was my first take. I was like, I don't see where the rogue is coming from here. Like, he's just kind of, I don't know. He didn't seem that compelling to me. I mean, obviously the dragon stuff at the God's Eye is amazing, and but it was almost a little Dark Star to me, where it's like, okay, you're telling me he's dangerous, but like, I don't feel it necessarily. Now I got into Daemon a little more doing the more hardcore research for Fire and Blood, but watching the first episode, and this is the point, really changed how I looked at Daemon. Now I kind of get it. So if that tells you anything about what they've done as far as drawing the character to life, looking at him on screen, I was like, oh, this is the most loved and hated man. This is the most, like, the wonder and terror of his age. Like, that's who's on the screen. So now I feel solid about, like, the character. He's sort of congealed for me. The visual performance has helped me fill in this description of him. So very promising as far as just, enjoying the character. But yeah, that's him. For example, the City Watch stuff. Okay. It's said that he's effective, but then it goes on to say how brutal he is, and he loves chopping off hands and the rapist cocks and the thieves' hands and executing murderers and all that stuff. And you're like, ooh, that sounds so awful, and hashtag Damon is a cop. But at the same time, don't gloss over the fact that he was effective. Like, this is a medieval world, and that's the penalty for stealing for thousands of years, is getting your hand chopped off. Like, that's not unusual actually at all. And when it says Damon enjoyed, well, that's just Maester fucking crap. Like, he was in charge of the City Watch, So on some level, he's responsible for doing all this stuff or making sure that it happens. And what did it say? Oh, he was effective. So we know that King's Landing can be a dangerous place, especially Flea Bottom. And it says, oh, he's always hanging out in Flea Bottom, hanging out in the brothels. Well, if you're gonna
What's wrong with that?
if you're gonna police, well, first of all, what's wrong with that, right? That we can do without your shame, thank you. But also, like, if you're gonna police Flea Bottom, don't you need to hang out there and know who's who and build relationships? And like, isn't that what good policemen do? So, you think about it a little harder, and you can see how like there might be a good character here, not just somebody who's there to like be a badass and be a dick and give that line and then stick somebody with a sword. Like, no, he's a pretty functional, rational dude. And when you start thinking about the strategy he employs, it's pretty interesting. And Tim, you had a point about Damon always winning, right?
Yeah, that's something. I had it at the end actually when we go over like Damon's legacy.
Okay.
But for me, it's Damon wins, and it's for better or for worse he wins, because you may think he loses because he died or possibly dies at the Battle of the God's Eye. But when everything is said and done, it's his line that's going to continue, because it's not Aegon II who's going to sit the throne. It's not Aegon II's children. It's not anyone coming from Otto Hightower's line. It's going to be his son. It's going to be his grandsons. From Aegon III all the way until the Mad King, they are all going to descend from Daemon and Rhaenyra's line. But I also say, but when I say for better or for worse, I say that because while we're going to get great kings like Daeron the Good and Egg, we're also going to get Aegon the Unworthy. We're going to get the Mad King. We'll get like a great hand like Viserys II, who's going to guide the realm through the reign of 3 kings. But we're also going to get Daemon Blackfire and every rebellion fought in his name. So it's like, when we think of a character that looms large over the whole story, it's Daemon Targaryen's, because up until the end of the dynasty, and even continuing it, because with Dany and Jon and possibly even Fagon, if Fagon's a Trugon or if he's a Blackfire, then they all come direct from Daemon's line.
Yeah, and that's another that's a great point, and that's kind of, I was teasing this thing on social media, and I was saying, make no mistake, Daemon is the star of House of the Dragon. And I didn't mean that as obviously a put down of anyone else or a minimization of the importance of Rhaenyra in particular. You could say that Daemon and Rhaenyra are the center of the show. Viserys only at the beginning, but it's about Targaryens. They are the Targaryens. But I guess what I was saying is, I've been thinking about I asked the question, is Rhaenyra the new Dany? Obviously not really, as far as are they a similar character. But there's a void in the show as far as who's the big dragon, who's the one everyone's going to be talking about every week. I think it's Daemon. I think that's who it is. So I think, go ahead.
He beats Vhagar. Come on. No, it's all about Daemon. It's all about Daemon.
It kind of is. Like, his relationships to everybody is the connective tissue of the story, I feel like.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go back to what we were saying about the City Watch and just like the importance of it. Like, you can kind of like gloss over that when you're reading, like, oh, he founded it. But when you think about it, the White Cloaks, the Kingsguard, they can't police the city. And this city is growing and growing. Like, I think a lot of times you think of the City Watch and you think of like Jenna Slint from the main series. And we probably
very like, corrupt, looking for bribes, lazy. Yeah, exactly. But this is a different time. Yeah.
Yes. This is when Daemon has made it, like, going from like they said, like guys wearing like their clothes from home. In my head, I see them with wooden sticks for some reason. And then Daemon coming, arming them with
cudgels. They're called cudgels, but yes, basically cudgels, sticks. Yeah.
Arming them with like worthy arms. And then the gold cloaks. Imagine how proud you would feel of your job when you put that gold cloak on. So to me, it's so important. And I think that's also what helped him able to police Flea Bottom and make a difference. So I think it's a big deal. And then like and even before that quote you read, you were saying like brother to a king, a grandson of a king, all that stuff is sure it's cool, but he didn't do much. Like he was just born, right? To
Mhm.
me, what impresses me is like Master of Coin, and then Otto gets rid of him. He doesn't give up. Master of Law, Otto like gets rid of him again, and then he doesn't give up, and now he's like, okay, let me find my place. City Watch.
And
It's like
then he leaves King's Landing and he's like, "Oh, I think I'll go whoop ass at the Stepstones and like, take care of some other problems for Westeros." So again, if you set aside the Maester spin, you can see that this is a highly competent person here. And yeah, he's a little wild, he's a little out of control, but he's not just like fucking off and causing trouble. He's getting shit done. He's
like
handling
Aegon
shit.
too.
And it's
Aegon too wasn't doing this. Aegon too was drinking and whoring and just being like a prince, right? Being a rich
Yeah.
guy. And Damon is working every day.
And so to go back to the period where you were talking about, where first he's Master of Coin and then Master of Laws, just for a short time, and Otto essentially forces him out, convinces Viserys to oust him until he gets to City Watch. Then he, revolutionizes the Watch.
Yeah.
You can see the dynamic that's forming here. Okay, Viserys, he apologizes. He makes excuses for his brother, which basically just means that he defends what his brother does in these small council meetings or in these conversations with his hand, Otto Hightower. So you can picture Otto constantly haranguing Viserys about Daemon is not, he's dangerous, he's irresponsible. Look what he did. Look what he did. And then Viserys is like sometimes going, "Oh, I'll talk to him," or maybe he's like, "Oh, it's fine. Otto, Otto, come on, you'd worry too much." He's somewhere in
Yeah.
between there. And so it's almost like Viserys can't decide if Daemon is his real ally or if Otto is his real ally. And I think
Well,
we're going to see Viserys caught in the middle of that on this show. And ultimately, we know that Otto is successful at driving a wedge between the two brothers. But that's a very important dynamic to think about in the early part of the story, is the Viserys-Daemon wedge driving. What do you think about that, Tim?
Well, I was going to say, like, not to make excuses for Otto Hightower, but it also seems like Damon wasn't really interested in those roles as Master of Law and Master of Coin. Like, he seemed bored in those. They didn't seem like good roles for him.
Or at least
And-
that's what we hear, right?
Yeah. But it seems like the impression I got from Damon was that and the reason why he didn't seem to excel in those two roles, but did so well in the City Watch, was he seems to be more of a hands-on guy. This is a
True.
guy who'd rather be out in the thick of it. Like, he's not made to sit at a desk and crunch numbers like a Master of Coin would. This is a man who's made to be out walking the streets, taking in the action directly, interacting with people, and leading.
Maybe the question is, why wasn't Daemon Hand of the King? Because up until this point, Targaryens had mostly turned to their family to be the hand. Jaehaerys had both of his sons, Aemon and Balon, as hand, and that was almost a role that they used to groom the next person that was going to sit on the throne. So I think that may be a question. It's like, why are they like shuffling Damon around between these menial jobs? It's like you're not really taking advantage of the man that's sitting there, who's Viserys' brother. That should be his most trusted ally. So to whatever extent he's not, that doesn't mean it's purely Viserys' fault. You could partially put that on Damon for making himself hard to trust and hard to accept because he's such an edgelord. But the point is, if you're looking at the Targaryen family, there's not many Targaryens left. A lot of them died under suspicious circumstances, including their father. And so, like, these two, Rhaenys, Viserys, and Daemon should be tight with each other to keep the family strong. And we can see all these other forces driving wedges between them in some senses. So this is that Maester conspiracy shit, man.
Definitely. I subscribe to that. But speaking of what you're saying about Viserys, like making excuses for Daemon, he does that a lot. And through text. And what I read, like just my own subtext reading into it, is that I feel like the brothers must have had like a really tight bond, maybe like when they were younger coming up, because of how much Viserys forgives him. And also, a lot of times Daemon apologizes. Damon did go back to the bronze bitch. Damon did take the egg back. Damon did put his crown down at his feet.
Right.
So
Right.
there seems to be like a really great brotherly bond that no matter what crazy things Damon says, like air for a day, like that was fucked up. Like that they can always kind of go back to that. And I hope the show kind of like delves into that. I love to see like a bromance. I love to see like instead of sibling squabbles, like a love, you know. So that's what I think.
It's definitely going to be one of those big. Oh, go ahead, Tim. I was just going to say myself.
Like when I was writing the relations portion of the outline with Viserys, it was one of the ones that I had the most fun doing because it reminded me of my relationship with my own brother, actually. Because me and my brother are two very different people, but
Is
we
he
love.
older or younger?
I'm the older brother, so
Okay.
I'd be the Viserys in this situation. He'd be the Daemon, and we're two very different people. And like we can go months without talking to each other, and it doesn't matter. Like we know that when we see each other again at like a holiday or a family thing, we're gonna talk. And everything's gonna be cool between us. But we have very different interests. We have very different way of going about things. But we love it. But we love each other. And growing up, though, we fought a lot. Like, we butted heads. It got to the point where our dad bought us boxing gloves and just told us, okay, go out. And we would just go out in the backyard and beat the hell out of each other.
That's good parenting,
and then come
right
back
there.
in.
Yeah.
And then it'd be like, okay, we're cool. He's cool. Yeah, we're cool. We're cool. We're cool. And it's like, that's kind of the relationship that I get the impression that Viserys and Daemon has, that they'd be like, they'd fight. They fight. Okay, fuck you, and then give them a couple hours though. I'm sorry. Bring it in. Hug. And that's like the relationship I have with my own brother. that's
You guys
what it
remember
always seemed
sock
to me.
'em boppers, sock 'em boppers. Remember that? Only 90s kids remember it. But yeah, David, do you have any siblings?
I have a sister, so I don't have too much of that brotherly rivalry stuff to draw from, but I definitely wanted to kill my sister sometimes.
Damn.
So I mean, vice versa, it goes both ways,
Yeah.
or whatever. But so that's definitely a major. Again, just to go back to the idea that Daemon's relationships to all the other characters is kind of how this thing turns, or whatever. Daemon versus Visenya, who wins in a fight? Well, they both have Dark Sisters, so I guess that they're fighting over who gets to wield Dark Sister. But
Damon, we've proven that he could beat Vhagar.
I think they just turn into a power couple, quite honestly.
Yeah.
So
There'll be some chemistry, yeah.
well, and of course, Rhaenyra wears her hair in a braid in memory of Visenya, and Rhaenyra idolizes Visenya. So,
Dang. That's deep, actually.
yeah. Well, there you go. Now here's one thing I want to say about I started talking about how the Targs are they're lizard people. They actually have magically added reptilian DNA. We don't know how. Watch the Dracomorph stream, but the point is they have it somehow, a little bit, a little bit. So I think what George is thinking about is that the Targaryens are like hot-blooded. So it gets miscast as Targaryen madness sometimes because that whole flip a coin quote, which makes it sound like it's 50-50. That's not really the point of that quote. But what we're supposed to take away from the Targaryens is that it's this whole fire of the gods theme, like Prometheus or Lucifer or anything. When you reach up and as a mortal man and try to possess the fire of the gods, that's the sword without a hilt. It's sorcery. There's no safe way to grasp it. You're gonna get burnt by trying to play with this divine fire. So that's kind of what the dragon blood is. And you hear Viserys in the trailer saying the dragons are a power mankind never should have messed with or trifled with. That's Prometheus looking at the fire going, I don't know if this was a good idea. That's what we're talking about here. So when we think about the Targaryens, Daemon is a true dragon. That means like he's got the dragon blood. He is hot-blooded, hot-tempered, passionate, strong, fierce, is a warrior. He looking for a fight a lot of the times, right? That is the true dragon. And Nettles just disappeared. But I assume she will buzz back in to the show in just a second. So I will keep going with my flow. And then just put Nettles right back in the stream when she calls back. So Rhaenyra also turns out to be a true dragon. So Tim, when you're talking about all of the subsequent Targaryens ended up descending from Rhaenyra and Daemon, well, that makes a lot of sense because these are two dragons with a strong dose of the dragon blood marrying each other. And so their offspring, that's where Targaryen should come from, not a bunch of friggin' high towers, right?
Yeah. And it stands in contrast to Viserys because Viserys seemed to enjoy the idea of being seen as a dragon rider rather than actually being a dragon rider.
Yeah, it was more about the symbol of power for sure.
Yeah, because he can say well, I claim Balerion the Black Dread, and it's yeah, but you rode him once at the end of his life, so it's you had the biggest, baddest dragon, but you had him when he was at his most, I guess, safest point in his life because it was right at the end when he was old and sluggish.
Very convenient.
It seems more, yeah. So Viserys seems more keen to just stick to the smaller symbols of Targaryen power, like Blackfire, because he never reclaims another dragon.
Well, that's why I think I really like that touch. Just we can see from the trailer shots that Viserys has always got that friggin' sword out. It's the classic thing you're told about a sword or a gun is you don't pull it out unless you mean to use it. You don't unsheath your sword unless you're ready to swing it. Remember Robb in the Godswood? There's Nettles again. Remember when Robb pulls out his sword? And let me just put you back in. There we go, Nettles. Hey.
Hey, sorry, those Maesters, they heard us talking about Damon, and they kicked me off.
Well, we're talking about the Maesters, so, we got your eye on you guys, buddy. So, you remember Robb Stark, he hears about, them taking Ned prisoner from Maester Luwin, right? And he pulls his sword out, and he's, ready to fight. And I think it's Roderick Cassell, who's the Master at Arms. He's like, put your sword away. There's no enemies here. He's like, don't pull it out unless you're ready to use it. So here's Viserys brandishing Blackfire constantly. Okay? It's not an appropriate thing. It's kind of like when Tywin says, anyone who has to say he's the king is no king. There's a little bit of that with Viserys. He's got that sword out to be like, I am a Targaryen, don't forget it. Because he's not a dragon rider, and all the other Targaryens at court are dragon riders. They have their dragons parked outside. So, I like how the show has him constantly with Blackfire as a crutch of power, of a power symbol. Mm-hmm. If he was really strong, he wouldn't need to do that, right?
Right.
So.
I question Viserys' worthiness though because Balerion did bend his neck to him at some point, or before he died. So it makes me think that Viserys is worthy of something. But
yeah, he's not a complete failure, but he's definitely has some signs of weakness, and he's definitely
Balerion is the only point I feel like he has greatness. Other than that, it's kind of just little failures that lead up to big failures.
Yeah, go ahead, Tim.
Oh, I was gonna say because you mentioned Tywin, and you get a good Tytos impression from Viserys, like Tywin's father, the one who was willing to bend over backwards to keep the peace. Now I wouldn't say that Viserys is as bad as the way Tytos was, but he is insecure, like we've established with him, the way he brandishes Blackfire. He is a flip-flopper, and he is someone who will placate to people as a means of keeping the peace.
He's a big flip-flopper. Thank you for saying that. He's a giant fucking flip-flopper. That is very true. Yep, there you go. It's well said. And definitely a placater. So yeah, that'll be something to watch for in that first season. What am I trying to say? The Otto Hightower acting The Otto Daemon Viserys dynamic is really good. Like I could tell just in the first episode, it's really good. Yeah, it's fun.
Okay.
It's fun. There's lots of memes. I feel like the memes are just flying off the screen. So we'll have to see what the more clever and younger internet does with it all. I'm sure they'll do good work. So let's see. I'm looking through Daemon the Scapegoat. So we talked about most of this stuff. We were familiar with the Maester conspiracy. Are there any points from the Scapegoat section that you'd like to make, Tim, before we move past that, so that we didn't talk about?
Just that, like, for my first impression of Daemon, like, I've read Fire and Blood probably more than I've read any. I've reread it more than I've read the other books. And the first time I read Fire and Blood, I admit I took Daemon Targaryen at face value. That was before I really started getting heavy into the lore, before I discovered like your channel and stuff. This is before I knew about the Maester conspiracy. So I was reading Fire and Blood with the idea that the Maesters could be a trusted source, you know, doing their best to work with the sources they had.
Yeah.
So when I came back and reread Fire and Blood, knowing about the Maester conspiracy and how intertwined Old Town and the Citadel are with the High Towers, and I was like, okay, let's look at this again, but realize this is being written by someone with their own agenda. What new things can we glean from it? And then that's when I started noticing, like, you know, they don't seem to go as hard on Otto and Alicent as they do Daemon.
Yeah.
Like, it really seems like even when Otto Hightower and to a degree Alicent Hightower's actions are heinous and atrocious, it always seems to be like trying to sweep it under a rug or give a quick excuse, and then you realize, like, oh yeah, it's because the Hightowers are the Citadel's biggest patron, and you don't want to bite the hand that feeds. Whereas
we know, like, the Maesters, the Citadel, is that paid for by the Hightowers, by the Reach, or does money come from?
That's what the word patron means. Yeah. So a lot of that money is Hightower money, and we know that, like, it seems like there's a lot of Hightowers that just apply to the Citadel and become Maesters. So it's just a lot of back and forth there. Can you guys carry this for a second? I need to put some eye drops in my eyes, so they're really dry right now.
Yes, of course. I could talk all day about Daemon being the scapegoat. He's almost like future or past Bloodraven, right? How everyone blames Bloodraven. Like, if you don't know,
when in doubt, blame Bloodraven.
Yeah, it's like, oh, Joffrey Lonmouth dies, and I mean not Joffrey, Carl Corey. When people hear him arguing with Laenor, and then people, like, accounts say that, yeah, like, he killed Laenor, but they're like, oh no, it was actually Daemon that paid Carl Corey, and the story is so, like, woven that they're like, yeah, he pays Carl Corey, then hires a boat for him, but then it ends up slitting his throat. It's like, damn, how do you know all this? Like,
yeah, like, Fire and Blood goes out of its way to try and throw Daemon under the bus as many times as it can.
It's like, okay, it's like, oh, the Strongs die. It's got to be Daemon. Like, how many fires have there been at Harrenhal since, you know, there are people always dying in their beds from freaking fires, but it has to be Daemon? Like,
Daemon's everywhere. Yeah, no, he's responsible for everything.
Like,
just like the Bloodraven theory, exactly, yeah.
When it comes to the fire at Harrenhal, I'm actually on the idea that Larys did that. That Larys killed his own brother and father at Harrenhal.
Really?
I can see that.
Yeah, I was. There was I forget who. I really need to put down who writes these things that I just come across every now and then.
I always forget.
The idea, they compared Larys and Breakbones, and it was comparing them to Sandor and Gregor Clegane. And remember, like, okay, so, like, the Hound, his face is burned because the Mountain did it, but their father covered it up. And then the idea was, Larys the Clubfoot, was he born with a clubfoot? Because his brother's name is Breakbones. What if Breakbones broke Larys's leg when they were younger, and it healed incorrectly, and their father never did anything about it, like, never punished him for it?
I've never heard of that. That's awesome.
Cool. That's a cool I mean, it's twisted, but it's a cool theory. I also like the one that Clubfoot didn't actually have a clubfoot, and that he pretended to limp so that he could go in disguise about the city without the limp and have no one suspect. And then, of course, his corpse, the foot was cut off and never found, so we don't know. Maybe that was covering up the fact that he didn't have a clubfoot. But who would want to cover that up for him after he was dead? I'm not sure. It could just be the author obscuring it, but in any case, that's an interesting parallel. And I also thought it made sense that maybe it's something that Viserys did, because this is near the end of, I mean, well, not the end, but this after a bunch of crap has happened to Viserys, and he might be in a darker place at this point. And he was, like, he had been putting up with the whole strong Harwin thing for a long time and just letting it build up, and then all of a sudden he had to deal with it. And so he told Rhaenyra to send Harwin away. Did he go as far as setting up that fire? Like, I don't know, man. I could see Viserys doing it. So
I love the magic of the story, so I like to believe that there's just some magic in Harrenhal that, or ghosts or curses or something that just...
Well, see, the magic draws out the evil intent of everyone, so that's why people do all the fucked up shit there, you know, so I don't know. It's definitely cursed in some way. So Daemon the person, presented as a complex and dynamic character, and like I said, that comes across more in the show. The show's not whitewashing him, but the show definitely feels like, oh, this is a more balanced character, not the person the Maesters are like, yeah, he did everything. You know, so you said at times he comes off as a cunning and conniving opportunist, a man only interested in furthering his own goals and looking for how events will benefit him. This is a main question to me. He's called ambitious, but it doesn't really seem to me that he is doing anything that you would do to try to take the throne. For example, with Mysaria, if you're trying to make yourself a good candidate to take the throne, why the Mysaria thing? Like, that doesn't make any sense. No part of it. Just like making her your visible paramour and then taking her back to Dragonstone, getting her pregnant and giving her a dragon's egg. Like, that's not going to be well received. That's not going to make you a better candidate to be heir to the throne. If he really was ambitious to be heir to the throne, he'd be trying to arrange... Well, first of all, he'd be trying to get out of his first marriage, and then he'd be trying to arrange a different marriage to somebody else highborn, which he didn't do. And then once he did eventually marry Laena, like, they just kind of chilled and flew their dragons and had kids. You didn't see... I don't know.
They're in Essos. Like, far away from King's Landing.
And like you said, he obeys Viserys every time Viserys tells him to do something. Like, he does it. So,
yeah,
the whole idea that Daemon is ambitious for the throne doesn't really ring true. I think the heir thing is more about respect for Daemon. I suspect it's more about his relationship with Viserys and the fact that Viserys doesn't trust him all the way. That's what it's about. Not really being the heir, quote unquote. It's about, why doesn't Viserys rely on him? Why does he keep listening to Otto and not relying on his brother Daemon, sticking together with the family? I think it's something more like that. So,
I feel like Daemon could have killed Viserys we know with Blood and Cheese that he's not above that, right? Like, he could have killed Viserys at any time, poisoned him, whatever, accident, and he never does.
No, like, he raises... It said at the Council of 101, he raises an army to as a means of backing up his brother's claim. And Fire and Blood says, like, he did... Fire and Blood tries to say, like, oh, he did this because he assumed that Viserys would make him the heir. But it's like, if you have the ability to raise your own personal army...
Which he does again at the Stepstones.
And I use the example of, like, Stannis and Renly, because Stannis would have the claim being the older brother, but Renly's the one with the actual army. But here in this situation, Daemon's the one with the army, but he's using it to the benefit of his older brother to back his claim, not Daemon's own, not any claim of Daemon's.
So then you really start to wonder, why doesn't Viserys trust his brother, and why does he keep him at arm's length? It's hard to explain, really.
Mm-hmm. But there are
Otto Hightower.
But I was gonna say, like, with Daemon's first marriage, Daemon does ask Viserys twice at two different points. He asks him to set aside the marriage. Like, dude, like, I'm not happy. She's not happy. Let us get a divorce, and he won't allow him to it. He won't allow him to do it.
Yeah, I think to your point, Nettles. Yeah, Viserys might also be jealous and like insecure about Daemon's power and his weakness, but. You know, I don't know. Should have made him his best ally then, I guess. But all right. So let's see. Moving along here. Let's see. Fiercely independent. That's true, but he also does work with people constantly as well. And like you see him run the watch, like, and all his people are loyal to him. So, like, he's not antisocial. Like, seems to be a skilled speaker. Like when it talks about, oh, well, he was loved and hated, like, well, he was loved too, don't forget. Like, so he's charismatic, he's probably well-spoken, intelligent, obviously competent, so he's got a lot of things going for him.
Yeah, that gets into the next bullet point.
Right, he inspires loyalty, right, with the watch. Exactly, as a leader that people will follow, and that means a lot. And that's maybe what Viserys doesn't have. Let's see.
And it gets, your experience may vary. Daemon's relations with people ran the entire gambit from friendly to hateful, and it seems more like he didn't respond well to bullshit or feel the need to placate to people he didn't like. And that's what I'm getting more at with Daemon. Is Daemon's more like I'm not gonna play nice. I'm not gonna fake niceties. Like if I think you're a dick, then I'm gonna treat you like a dick, and I don't see any reason why you shouldn't know that I take issue with you and we're never going to get along. Like, let's not waste time trying to make nice if we're not going to get along. That's the impression I get more from Damon. Is like, whereas as opposed to Viserys is willing to like look past that, and because he wants everyone to like him. Daemon doesn't care if you don't like him, because all that Daemon cares about is, are you good? Are you competent? Can I work with you? If I can't work, if you're none of these things, then I have no need for you.
Yeah, suffers no bullshit. I think that's right. That seems right.
I feel like Damon is like the dragon, not a dragon.
Yeah, he takes up a lot of room. That's kind of what I was saying about that first episode. Like, wow, the guy's presence. Yeah, so he's suffers no bullshit, and that makes him likable too. Because honestly, like, there's a part of everyone that just like doesn't want to take bullshit from people. Everyone's got to be polite to people when they don't want to be sometimes, especially if you've worked in customer service. And like, there's a certain joy in just letting people have it sometimes when they, deserve it, quote unquote. Twitter's the website for you if you feel like that. In any case, so let's see. He's at odds with Viserys, right? Who is, like we said, more like prone to being manipulated and listening to everyone and placating, as opposed to setting the tone. Daemon sets the tone. And let's say, so there's a real contrast in their ruling style. Yeah, and we've talked about that already.
Yeah.
Let's see, yeah, so we talked about that, right? Not suited as much to Master of Coin or Master of Laws. He does seem like a hands-on person, and that's part of that true dragon thing. Like, you've given a human being the dragon blood. So it's like, what is that for? It's so they can bond with a dragon and burn things. Like, that's kind of the point of all this. So you kind of look at Daemon as this character who he needs a war. And when I was talking to Tim, I actually made a mythical comparison. Come here. Surprise. I, think of Cernunnos, the horned god, okay? The whole thing about Cernunnos and all the various iterations of him is that not only does he represent the virility of nature, the green of nature, that's why he's alive in the spring, and he dies in the fall, and he's dead in the winter, and then he resurrects in the spring, and he's the strongest in the summer. He represents the strength, the vitality of nature. He also represents the vitality of the male of men, the male vitality. And specifically, it's the stag that represents male energy. And the idea is that if this male energy is left free to roam, it will be destructive. But if it's channeled towards something, it will be powerful. And that was this dual edge with Cernunnos. Think of like Bacchus, how Bacchus is wild, and Pan too. Like, you can't quite trust them. They're a little like unbalanced and stuff. That flows from this same line of thinking that's attached to this mythology. So with the dragon, you like that? Is that good? What'd you say?
Huh? I was saying, would you say Loki is kind of like that, like Daemon?
Yes. Well, the trickster god is working with the same themes very much so. Yes, there's definitely some overlap there. So it's the whole idea of this energy is so strong that it needs to be channeled into something. It needs to do something. That's kind of how I am with my ADHD. Like, I constantly have to work on stuff. I'm not very good at just sitting down and like chilling, watching a movie or something. You know, if there's people to hang out with, I'll smoke and talk and chill or whatever. But for the most part, I always want to be engaged in stuff, doing stuff.
Okay.
And for Damon, that like Tim was saying, that means hands-on, at fire and blood type activity. So when he's given the watch, he does well. When he's given some glorified pirates in the Triarchy, he does well. When the war starts, he's outwitting Kristen Cole and Aemond and winning battles and pulling off planned assassinations and all kinds of shit. So like, yeah, that's the big dragon energy, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Big dragon energy. Hey, okay. So Damon is a cop with ADHD. Got it.
End stream. Cam Cobain says, Damon already sounds like he will be my favorite character in the show. I love the competent warrior type characters. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a better Jaime in some ways, because Jaime has this streak in him where he's just apathetic, lazy, kind of is a fuck off, doesn't care, doesn't take things seriously. Like, Damon doesn't have that part. Like, Damon is like, he is real self-actualized, but similar in many ways. Yeah. So, and you're right, Tim, that both Viserys and Daemon are prone to taking action based on emotions. I pointed that out in one of my recent videos. Viserys is very passive, and then when he does assert himself, it's in an unbalanced emotional way, as opposed to like, a reasoned, firm stance that a consistent line that you can't cross with him, kind of a thing, or something like that. So you going back, okay, so you've got the timeline of his life. So he's born in 81 AC, which means he's 48, 49 by the time of the Dance of the Dragons. So he's a little older, but still, in his prime as a warrior. That's the character we'll get by the end of the first season. And he's about 30 or something when the show begins, more or less.
Okay.
What's that?
I was gonna say, like, when he and Rhaenyra finally get married, he's 39 and she's 23 at that point.
Okay.
39 and 23. Yeah, that's right. So it is important to sketch out, the thing from Jaehaerys. So Jaehaerys, he had a couple of earlier children that died in the cradle, but as far as the children that lived to adulthood, there's Aemon and Balon that are the oldest two. And Prince Aemon marries Jocelyn Baratheon, and who is half Velaryon, by the way, and then has Rhaenys, the queen who never was. And that is why the Baratheon-Velaryon alliance exists at the beginning. With, Rhaenys, those people are all sort of tied together. At the Great Council, the Baratheons support Rhaenys' claim, obviously. Aemon dies. That's when Balon is made the heir over Rhaenys in like 93 AC, I think it is. This is the cause of one of the two great quarrels between Jaehaerys and Alysanne. Alysanne is pissed. She hops on her dragon and flies off to Dragonstone. And that 2 years that she's estranged from Jaehaerys. And she supposedly goes to her grave still complaining about Rhaenys should have been the heir. The idea is that Aemon is the older son. So when he
Yeah.
dies, even if he was never king, his child should have precedence over Aemon's younger brother, which would be Balon. But Jaehaerys made his own choice. So what do you guys have to say about that?
It's fucked up. No, I definitely think it's messed up. Even because also Rhaenys had Laenor. So let's say even if you didn't want the woman, you could have chosen the son. I think that's Laenor's born a little bit later. I think that's a question for the Great Council, so I'm skipping ahead. But I mean, it's not like we have Dorne as an example that women can rule, and the world doesn't go to shit. So it's.
Of course not.
And then Jaehaerys has Alysanne next to him, who a lot of people said that she was the thinker. She was the one ruling the kingdom. She came up with a whole bunch of great ideas. So you have an example of someone that you say that you love, that you can't live without, that shows competence, and you still can't comprehend that a woman can rule. So it's like, all right, I would love to hear Viserys' more than what they say in the text, what his reasoning is.
And Aemon was a lot more qualified than Balon. He had done a lot more. So
He was
Balon,
loved.
yeah. So Balon, anyways, Balon, he is the father of Viserys and Daemon, and Balon married his sister Alyssa, and Balon and Alyssa are a pretty cute couple. They fly with their kids on the dragon. Alyssa takes takes Daemon and Viserys up on the dragon before they're even 2 weeks old. So that's what you do, I guess. As one does if you're a Targaryen mama. So that's pretty cool. They're likable couple. And Alyssa is interesting. She's got mismatched eyes and some other feature that's less than beautiful. Her nose is crooked or some shit. I forget what it is. Maybe she broke it.
I think it was she broke her nose and it didn't heal properly.
She did break her nose. Okay. So and so, she's imperfect, but they love each other, and so it's very romantic and stuff. They both, I forget how Alyssa dies. Balon dies of on the hunting trip with a bad belly or whatever.
A burst appendix.
Right before that, and that's why they call the Great Council, is because at that point they're just not sure who the heir even is.
Right.
So Alyssa rode.
It's in the next bullet point.
And Alyssa rode Meleys. Thank you, Mark Gleason. Yes, Alyssa rode Meleys before Rhaenys did, the Queen Who Never Was. So. And Aemon rode Caraxes also. Aemon, Rhaenys' father, rode Caraxes that Daemon eventually rides.
Okay.
So Alyssa dies in childbirth. Yes, they all die in childbirth. It's bad belly, a.k.a. Maester poisoning. Dies in childbirth, a.k.a. Maester poisoning. So that's kind of the thing about all this. Let's see. Free-spirited and adventurous in his youth. Traits inherited from his mother, Alyssa, like we said. That's funny. So I just see, this is what I was saying, Tim. So you are the outline man, and I'm the just kind of has everything in his head man. So that was me shooting from the hip.
I thought you were just reading my outline.
No, I wasn't reading your outline. I wasn't even looking at it. I was just...
That's why when you said I can't remember how Alyssa dies, I was like, it's the next bullet point.
I wasn't even reading the outline. I was just going from memory, and then I look up and it's like, oh, it's everything I just said, except for the one thing I couldn't remember, which is why you do the outline, so that thing you don't remember is there. But just... So, guys, this is how it's going to go. This is probably a good time to make this announcement. Folks, you are looking at the House of Flying D's post-game show team right here, folks. This is it. Greyways, Tim, and Nettles. It will be the three of us, and occasionally a fourth random person, if we want to. And that's kind of the nice thing about having three, is that if we want to if Gray Area or somebody wants to drop by 1 week, then we can do that. But yeah, this is the post-game team, so say hello. Hi.
Hey, everybody.
And I figured it would be a lot more fun to talk about the show with a couple other fans, so that, just to spread the excitement, get some different perspectives. Because it's so... Right when the show's over, you know how it is, if you remember Game of Thrones, you have the urge to talk about it. Everyone's excited and wants to talk about it. But you also haven't had time to think about it and watch it again and stuff. So having multiple people, good for the enthusiasm, also for the different perspectives. Right away, we can get a little deeper into it and notice some different things. And looking forward to it a lot. It's going to be great season. And so Minty just posted your guys' channel links in the chat, and it looks like we're posting them again. Thank you very much. You both have YouTube channels. Of course, you guys know how to search channels on YouTube. It's Gray Waist Tim. There it is. You know, Girl Nettles. There it is. It'll pop up. So there. But are you going to be doing more on your channel, Nettles? You just got a couple videos.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing more.
Okay, great.
I'm not technology advanced, so it takes me a while to edit and do all that. So
drunk histories are fun. I loved that show when I was on. So when I was watching, I was like, oh, this is great. This is made for me.
I love talking and not being accountable for like facts and stuff. But someone in the chat, they start with OXO, said that Damon is a Sigma. Agree or disagree?
What's that mean?
So you know, like alpha. So alpha is supposed to be like alpha, and then beta. I guess some people take that to mean derogatory. But Sigma means basically the Sigma wolf is the lone wolf. So whenever you see like a lone wolf, like in nature, they're kind of like alpha.
No, Damon is alpha. He's pure alpha.
Yeah.
He's pure alpha. He's so alpha that no one else can handle it, and he's like everyone's threatened by it. That's what it is.
But to say more, Sigmas, like they could be an alpha because they survive, but they don't like your rules, so that's why they're not in your pack.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think that. Well, it gets back to the question that it's an open question, but it's the one we were debating earlier, whether, like, you know, Damon's competence, like, is he just pissed off that his brother won't trust him, you know, or is it like that he's really, because he kind of obeys when his brother gives him a command, so it's not that lone wolf, and again, he's leading and organizing the watch. That's not a, like, I think I'll just go fuck some shit up today kind of a thing. Like, no, he trained and organized the city watch. Like, that's administrative, managerial stuff that he did there. So yeah, I would put him more in the alpha category, but we'll see. Do you guys want to talk about well, no, let me hold that. Never mind. I was going to talk about the strategy that he employed at the end of his life, but that would be way, way ahead. So forget that. Matthew Buffington says, great selection for the team. Thanks, Matt. I'm seeing a bunch of other love in the chat here, too. Thanks, chat. Appreciate that. Both of you guys were well received when you came here. I know there's much love for both of y'all, so I know this would go over well. That is not a surprise. And let's see here. Yeah, so it's almost like if Daemon had just been the firstborn, Viserys might have been a decent hand for Daemon, but that just didn't come out.
George's favorite thing to do is to always make the one who should be king the younger child.
Maegor and Aenys. Like, he does that so much. Thank you for saying that. I didn't want to say that because, I don't know, but Daemon should have been king.
So one thing that people are talking about today, I noticed, is I don't know if it's a leak or if it's an announcement, but the episode run times are out.
I saw that, yeah.
And the first episode, well, I could tell you it was very long. An hour and 5 minutes, I think, is the number that's being thrown around. All in all, there's like 10 and a half episodes worth of material coming at us. So big chunky boys, these episodes, and really a lot happened in the first one. It was kind of befuddling. Like, by the time it was over, I was like, wow, did they ever get a lot done in that episode? So it's very efficient storytelling. It doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't at all. Like the dialogue has lots of space to breathe when it needs to. But they really are doing a good job. Well, so when you do show not tell, the classic, storytelling canard, when you don't have somebody sit there and just, oh, well, Daemon is this, describe. You just show Daemon being a badass, and then it's like, oh, okay, I get it now. Then it takes less time also. So Cleo's showing right now and telling, aren't you, girl? Okay. So where are we in the notes here? He claims the bloodworm when, Tim?
Do we ever get?
No, we don't know when he claims the bloodworm, but what I found interesting though is the fact that he claims a red dragon just like his mother. And I feel like if Rhaenys, if the Queen Who Never Was hadn't claimed Aelys, Daemon might have. But the fact that it just struck out to me that he claimed a red dragon too, just like his mother had.
That's sweet. That's sweet, Tim. Thank you for noticing that. Appreciate that.
Yeah. I want to look into the red dragons, just like maybe the black dragons have significance. I think the red dragons might be
It's the dragon on the sigil, after all.
Yeah.
Because the thing about Daemon's childhood is it's never really covered. Like, it jumps from when he's 3, when his mother passes and he loses his baby brother. Then we don't hear anything else about his childhood until he's 16, when he's knighted and Jaehaerys gifts him with Dark Sister. So, like, the real formative years of him aren't doted upon. You know, they're not expanded upon. But it just struck me out though. But like, if we think of like other characters that we do know, like we can use Rickon as an example, as someone who lost their mother at a very, very young age, like 3 years old, like that will have a profound effect on you. Even if you're a prince and you're gonna have everything taken care of, just growing up without your mother it's always going to be something that sticks with you.
That's true.
Speaking of oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, boys who lose their moms, it speaks to like the partners they choose. Whether that means they're going for women that are like their mom or women who are the opposite of their mother. Yeah, that's all I was gonna say.
Getting all Freudian here. Let me ask you, Nettles. Marvin Martin asks with the super chat that I missed, why do people think Nettles is Daemon's daughter? I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't like that take. It's even written in the text. It's just saying, like, you know, I think they're just trying to figure out, she has to be Targaryen. She has to have the blood. So they're figuring out, trying to grasp at straws.
So it's something the Maesters suggest? I forget. Is that the okay?
Who's got the least dick, and they're like, it's Daemon. Daemon will sleep with anybody. So
I guess it just makes Damon more disgusting, right? He slept with his own daughter, right? Yeah. So, Audrey McConnell says, "What Damon moment are the three of you most excited for in season 1? So before the war starts." I'll let y'all two answer. I've already seen an episode, so I don't know if I can answer, but
dang, it's gonna be tied for me. It's gonna be tied for, like, if it's gonna be season 1, I'm guessing the political intrigue. Like, I want to. In my head, he's clever and he's got the comebacks. Like, in my head, he's the Tyrion. So I want to see, like, his political intrigue. I want to see him master of coin. I want to see him flea bottom. But then I'm here for the porn gore porn. So I want to see the stepstones if that's covered in season 1. I want to see him destroying ships, cutting off people's heads.
Well, Nettles, there's one objectively correct answer, and you did not give it. So I'm disappointed in you, Tim. Let's see if you can get it.
Dang.
Best Damon moment of season 1. What is it going to be?
For me, it's going to be him developing his bromance with Corlys. That's what I'm actually most excited.
Yeah, that's cool, but that's not the right answer. The right answer is when he meets Lena and taunts the loser guy that's been betrothed to her for 10 years but lost all his family money. Daemon taunts him mercilessly until he has to challenge Daemon to a duel, knowing full well Daemon's going to cut him up with Dark Sister, which Daemon does, and then he marries Lena right after that. That is the correct. I'm kidding, of course, but that's like the most Daemon thing I think that happens in season 1.
Yeah, when he kills the Sea Lord's shitty son. Yeah,
get the fuck out of here.
Why didn't he leave? Like, he didn't. You could have just left. Like, whatever.
Anyway, I'm just trying to be entertaining. Of course, there's lots of great Damon moments, and just like I said, just anything with Damon is going to be pretty sick. Somebody asked why he's sitting on the throne. It's mostly just a troll move. It's nothing to make too much of, but I mean, sometimes you just have to sit on the thing. I mean, what does everybody do when they get their picture? They do a selfie, and every time that's what they have the Iron Throne at places for. So you can take a selfie on the throne. So that's really all he's doing is, I am looking forward to seeing the young Rhaenyra Daemon dynamic. Already what I saw from the first episode was like, ooh, this is interesting. The main thing, and I already got into this in talking about Rhaenyra in the last weeks, but 14-year-old Rhaenyra, don't think about her as Sansa when she first came to King's Landing. Like, Rhaenyra has grown up in King's Landing. She's riding a dragon since she was 7. She's pretty on it. Like, she has
agency.
She has agency. Thank you. That's the word. So, obviously there's a big age difference, and 14's not 31, but she's a dragon rider and pretty savvy. So she doesn't seem like someone that is like, oh, what do I do? Is someone going to take it? No, Rhaenyra's a dragon. Like, she's got a lot of attitude and a strong presence, and so it's really looking forward to seeing the rest of how Millie Alcock portrays her, and then how Emma Darcy portrays her. So I'm looking forward to it.
Man, I can't wait. We have to wait another month.
It's actually only like it's less than that. It's August 21st, and today's
3
July
weeks.
31st. So we're more like 3 weeks here.
Still, I want it now.
In fact, it's exactly 3 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's great for me. Like, my birthday is August 31st, so it's like happy birthday to me. I'm gonna get the 2 episodes in on it.
Cool. And then Minty's coming here from Australia in sometime in September, so she'll be here for a bunch of the season 2. But anyways, getting back to Tim's notes, we are talking about Daemon's life. Note that he claimed Caraxes from the dragon pit, so not one that was put in his cradle. I guess an egg was not put in his cradle. It's kind of unclear. It said that tradition goes back to Rhaena, Dreamfire Rhaena, but that's before Daemon, and Daemon, I don't know, it doesn't matter. But he claims Caraxes.
Some of the eggs don't hatch.
I guess, yeah, maybe that's it.
We could have put it and it just didn't hatch.
Maybe Daemon bit its head off.
Yeah, he was hungry.
Like Ozzy Osbourne. Let's see. He was knighted at 16, and we know that he's got, martial prowess and all that. Jaehaerys gave him Dark Sister, so that's a real indication of Jaehaerys. Jaehaerys giving Dark Sister to Daemon is like pointing at him and saying, you are not only capable but also responsible for preserving some of the Targaryen dragonness into the next generation. Like, you may not sit the throne, but you should wield this sword and remind everybody what our words mean. You know what I mean? Like, that's what it means. So it's very significant that Jaehaerys gave him that sword. Yeah.
Just to play devil's advocate, was there anyone else around that would have been at the age and worthy of Dark Sister?
Well, he could have given it to Viserys.
Viserys can't fight.
Could have given it to Rhaenys, I guess. They could have waited for somebody else to have a kid, but no, they gave it to Daemon. So
yeah.
I do not know. Did anyone in the previous generation wield it? Like, did Aemon or Balon wield it? Or I don't think so.
I
No,
can't
the last we hear of anyone wielding it, I believe, was Maegor. Because Maegor had both. That was the thing that stood out about Maegor. Maegor had Blackfire, Dark Sister, Balerion, and the Conqueror's Crown. He has all.
I love that. Yeah, double wielding like a motherfucker. Yep. Somebody's asking why Daemon did not claim Vhagar.
Because
Lena had him.
Vhagar had a partner.
Lena might have had him. Or when was Lena born? Oh no, Daemon's older. Yeah.
Daemon's older, but before Lena, Vhagar was ridden by someone.
Oh, yes, it was. Was it Balon?
Vhagar wasn't available.
It was Balon. It was Balon. Yeah.
Okay.
Balon rode Vhagar. So that's it. Vhagar wasn't available, so he got the meanest dragon that he could from the pit, which was Caraxes. And that's what we're told, is that Daemon chose Caraxes because he was the meanest dragon. So that tells you something about about Daemon. So, all right, moving forward. What do we got next, Tim?
The next one was relations, but it was Viserys, and we covered a lot of that already.
Oh, we totally did, yeah. So where should we pick up here?
Well, I do want to talk about like those lines though now from the trailer. The whole like dreams.
That's what
didn't
I was
make us
looking at. Yeah,
kings,
go ahead.
dragons did, and just like showing more of that contrast between Daemon and Viserys, and that's why I brought up like how Viserys, because I'll just repeat because it was when Nettles was out, was how Viserys had Balerion, but he has like that legacy of being the last rider of Balerion, but he claims Balerion at the end of Balerion's life. So it's like, were you really truly a dragon rider because you only rode him once and you got him at when he was like at his most safest and most docile point?
Yeah.
And then you never claim another one?
That's the question I always have. Like, is he worthy or not? But I'll give him some credit because even at his old age, I feel like Balerion isn't going to let anyone claim him.
He would have been more docile, that is true. And we're told he'd grown old and sluggish. But at the same time, it is Balerion. Yeah, I wouldn't be trying to walk up to him and
if old
tempt
Balerion
fate.
bucks you off his back, you're still going to get hurt.
Cool. So
No, but there was a kid who punched Balerion in the nose. The Bold, and they got the name Aemon. They got the Brave, Balon the Brave.
is that how Balon got that name?
Whoever got the moniker the Brave.
That's Balon who
Oh
wrote
yeah, I
it.
do. Yeah, like little toddler Balin, like walked right up to Balerion.
So maybe he was docile. Balerion probably he was just like an old senile dragon who like didn't care. Because
Because Balin was also the one who, as a kid, would just like pick up he wasn't allowed. He was too young to train for swordplay, so he just picked up a stick and started hitting people with it.
No, it's just like on How to Train Your Dragon. There's little spots you could touch the dragon, you tickle them just right, and they just flip over and, and just go like that. They go all cute and, anyways, so now we're getting into the events that are going to be covered on the show in the timeline here. I don't know if I want to go over all of that in detail, simply because the show's going to lay out their own version of this in a few weeks. And I also have a video coming. What's that? Go ahead.
You're talking about the Air for a Day stuff?
Yes, once we get into that, and just the whole rest of this timeline here. I've got a video coming out this week. It's the Damon's Ladies video that I've been working on. If HBO will stop, releasing trailers and inviting me to premieres, then maybe I could finish the video. But it is going to be out in a couple days, and I am going to go through his 5 major women, not including Allison, who I've just recently learned may have been the 6th of his high-profile women. But anyways, but let me ask you, Tim, as far as like main takeaways from some of this stuff on the timeline, like what's the emotional or the tonal thing that you took away from the Air for the Day incident or for his marriage to Rhea, for example?
Well, first of all, like, I don't think he made the Air for a Day comment. I think that's slander. I think that's Otto Hightower. I think that's Otto Hightower, having been around Viserys so long and really wanting to get rid of Daemon, knowing the perfect thing to say that would get under Viserys' skin. But given what we've seen, like, okay, like, yeah,
well, let me pause you real quick, and let me just say, if it wasn't made up, it seems clear at least it was tattletaled. It was like there were multiple sources that heard it and then ended up running to somebody like, well, those probably were spies, and who brought this news right to Viserys while he was still upset and in his grief, and be like, oh, knocking on the door, by the way, your brother said something awful, just thought you should know. It's very bad. He said it like this. So, so we don't know the point is, Tim, like whether he said it or not, I think we can assume that there is some amount of Otto fanning the flames going on. But carry on with your point, please.
Well, I was just going to say, like, even no matter how at odds they were, and again, I'm bringing this back to like me thinking about my relationship with my own brother, because I see a lot of that in the Viserys Daemon dynamic. It's like, no matter how angry I could ever get on my brother. I could never say something so hurtful, especially about like my own niece or nephew. So that's why, like, for me, in my personal opinion, I think the heir for a daylight. I don't think Damon said it. I think that's slander against him. I think that was made up. Like, I don't see that being something Damon would actually say.
Well, what
like,
if he said it? What if he said it not quite in as mocking of a way? Like, what if, like, I don't know. I mean, there's different ways. There's different contexts it might have come out, and also you have to realize that Damon has a weird relationship with being the heir. Like I said, and mostly if really makes sense if you think about it in terms of not that Damon needs to be the heir to the throne, but that he wants respect. And so if Viserys is like not, because remember before this incident, Daemon is presumed the heir, but not really named the heir. So it's kind of like, well, he's the only male choice around, so people think about him as the heir, but he's not named the Prince of Dragonstone, which is the official designation. And so when Viserys has this son, like, obviously the son would be the heir. So it's kind of like Viserys is not giving, he should have named Daemon Prince of Dragonstone already. And the fact that he didn't and doesn't make him hand and keeps giving him these other menial offices and putting him off, it's like, that's where it comes from, when it's like, oh, well, you tried to replace me with your little brat and it didn't work. You know what I mean? Because, like, children come and go. Like, everyone's like, oh, children, but, like, not every person feels like that about children. Like, I fucking hate children. I'm kidding. But, like, canceled. But you know what I mean? They're at the mall, they're at the movie theater, they're on the plane, they're too noisy. And parents always think that, like, everyone else should put up with their bad behaved children just because they have children, and you're just supposed to understand and put up with their crap. But it's like, nah, contain your own mess. I'm definitely going to get myself canceled here. Point is, like, people, I don't know what just happened. I just blacked out for a second.
That took over your brain.
But I mean, just like our society is very reverent of children, and in the Middle Ages, it is not quite necessarily the same. A lot of kids die in the cradle. A lot of kids die young, and so I'm just saying it's
until their first year.
It's very conceivable, right? That the whole wildling custom, exactly. We don't name them until they're 2 because so many die. So it's like, oh, and Rhea Royce has had how many miscarriages too? Like a bunch. So it's obviously very insensitive and callous. But again, Viserys is trying to replace Daemon as the heir by having a son. And if you look at Fire and Blood, he's kind of working Emma Aaron pretty fucking hard. Right? It's like, how many miscarriages and stillborns does she have? It's like, as soon as she's done, it's like, all right, well, try again. I need an heir. It's like, and she just keeps having these things. So there's some complex stuff here. If Daemon is potentially mocking Viserys on the death of the kid, like, it's messed up for sure, but it's sort of understandable. It's not just like a wild thing. Like, oh, Daemon wouldn't say that. Like, no, he might. He might, but we'll see.
I want to say, Tim changed my mind. I thought that 100% Daemon said it, but now I'm starting to think that it was probably Otto Hightower. And then Secret Targaryen in the chat made a point that Daemon is really upset when Mysaria loses their kid, and that maybe he does care about.
Well, but that's probably why he may have made that comment, though, because it's like he blamed Viserys for Mysaria's miscarriage, didn't he? Because Viserys told Daemon to send her away, and it was on the ship, which is not the best place for a pregnant woman, that she miscarried, and it said that Daemon blamed Viserys for it. So then,
his heart. It says he hardened his heart towards Viserys. Like, that's some serious shit.
Right. So, there you go. Yeah, it's a tangled web of resentment and hurt and all that stuff. That's why again, this is really taken out of context, but Matt Smith and Emma Darcy were in the behind the scenes. They were talking about, the Targaryens, they need a lot of therapy, and everyone's like, oh God, they're going to do the crazy Targaryen thing. It's like, no, this is a family that needs a lot of therapy. Come on, let's be real. Like, that doesn't mean they're insane, but.
The magic aside, the thing that's amazing about George's writing is that it's always applicable to our daily life in 2022. Like, I have aunts who kind of have rivalries. One has children, one can't. And it's not like you want to hate your sister. It's not like you want to envy them, but it's like this is life. This is the lemons that you're dealt with. And sure, add the magic and the dragons, but when you take that away, this is real life shit.
I just scrolled back up and I'm looking at the chat from when I was ranting about kids. It's pretty rich. There's some good stuff in there.
Mostly people agreeing, right?
There's definitely some people agreeing. Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Watch goblins.
LML hates kids. Confirmed. It's not. They're all right. I actually do like kids. I once they're about older than 3 and you can toss them around safely without being too worried about it, then I'm okay with them. But. Anyways, let's see here.
The bronze bitch, Corlys.
Bronze bitch. They better make bronze bitch like a real fucking bitch, dude. Man, she wears armor. She wears rune armor. I think she must be a badass. Like her and Damon didn't get along, but I don't know. I hope that we hear something. She's been cast. She's kind of a hottie too. So they got to give her something to do. I don't know. We'll see.
And then we have Corlys. They're bros for life. I like that, Tim.
Yeah, I really am looking forward to that whole War for the Stepstones thing. I mean, it's pretty cool. And then eventually he marries Corlys's daughter, so it's pretty dope. Why don't you So what is the War for the Stepstones? This will be a good thing to prepare people for, Tim. We're going to see this, obviously, in the first couple of episodes, based on what we've heard, and based on the timeline, too. We know that the first 5 episodes are with the younger actresses for Rhaenyra and Alicent, and then they're going to time skip 10 years or so for the second 5 episodes of the season. And the Stepstones happens before that skip. So sometime in the first 5 episodes, we're going to get the War for the Stepstones. So tell us about it, Tim. What is it?
Okay, so when it first, like as background, like with Daemon and Corlys going on this War for the Stepstones endeavor. What's great about Daemon is like this relationship with Corlys he has shows how he can come around on people, because we got to remember Daemon and Corlys are originally going to start off at odds. Like Daemon raises that personal army to push his brother's claim at Great Council, while Corlys, of course, is pushing his wife Rhaenys, the queen who never was, claim, and pushing their son's claim. So originally they're going to start off at odds. They're going to be at odds against one another. But when the War for the Stepstones happen, this is the thing that's going to bring them together, because it's a war of mutual benefit for both of them. Daemon is bored with the roles he's been given. He wants to carve out his own kingdom. And
Corlys don't like paying him taxes.
Corlys is sick of paying these taxes. So, like, War for the Stepstones is the free cities of Myr, Tyrosh, and Lys come together, and they kick Volantis out of the Stepstones, and then they begin getting all the pirates, all the pirate dens out. And this is like the first time and they declare themselves as the Triarchy, this 3-way alliance. And for the first time in years, the Narrow Sea is virtually pirate free. It's safe to pass through. And the Triarchy, for their efforts, charges a toll. And at first, the traders, the lords of Westeros, like Corlys Velaryon, are happy to pay the toll because it means safe passage and not having to deal with fucking pirates. But as the years go on, the Triarchy gets greedier and greedier, and the price of tolls just goes up and up and up to the point where it's like, okay, now you're worse than the damn pirates. Like, the pirates charge less to get through. So Corlys,
it's like a troll on the bridge.
You've become the monster that you tried to destroy.
Yes.
And Corlys just becomes like, this is ridiculous. Nobody can you are killing trade in the area with these with these prices. So him and Daemon launch this personal war to rid the Triarchy, and it starts and that becomes like Corlys's main endeavor is getting control of the Stepstones to bring the tolls, to keep the pirates out, but to keep it out under his control and to get rid of these high tolls that the Triarchy is imposing.
Yeah, it's awesome. The only thing is, like, I hate the fact that Dorne sides with the Triarchy, like, later on. Because, like, Damon wins, right? He kills, he beheads...
Kragos Crab Feeder.
The Crab Feeder. So he's the king. But then after that, all of a sudden, now Dorne wants to come. I'm like, Dorne, what are you doing? Like, so that kind of ruins it, but yeah.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, at Dorne at this point, since they're still not, it's gonna be like it's gonna be a long while yet till Dorne's brought into the fold. So it seems like at this time, Dorne was willing to side with anyone that was giving Westeros trouble, just as a way of sticking it to them. Like, so it didn't. Like, the reason for the war didn't matter. It was, oh, who you're fighting? You're fighting Westeros. Oh, okay, that's good. That you're fighting the Targaryen kings. Oh, that's all we need to know. We're gonna land you to support. Like, say no more. That's all we need.
And also, it makes me think of George's comment. What was Aragorn's tax policy? So here we have a war partially involving somebody's tax policy. So
exactly.
this is the fantasy that George wanted, guys. Here it is. This is the fully realized vision.
And anyways, I love it.
So of course it's cool because we've seen the clips of this already. It looks awesome. The Triarchy, they look a little bit like pirates. They've got totally different weapons and gear, and there's Kragos Crab Feeder with his mask, and it looks like a burned face of some kind, or maybe grayscale, or fucking who knows. We'll have to see. Maybe he's part squisher. So anything is possible. And he does look kind of intimidating with the whole staking people out on the beach so the crabs can eat them slowly. That's kind of messed up. So it's definitely going to be exciting, and it looks like, playing the game of trying to identify the dragon in the trailer. It looks like Sea Smoke and Adam Valerian are going to be in, which to me makes a ton of sense. If you think about it, I said Adam Valerian, sorry. Laenor Valerian and Sea Smoke. Adam rides Sea Smoke later. That's why I did the... But at this point, it is Laenor. Laenor, in Fire and Blood, he's basically just involved in being passed over as a choice at the Great Council. And then the whole thing where he marries Rhaenyra, but has different boyfriends on the side, culminating in Carl Corey, who kills him. Killed by Carl Corey. So it makes sense if he's riding a dragon to, like, find something a little more for him to do that establishes him as a dragon lord. So it looks like on the show he'd probably be participating in this war for the Stepstones, which is cool. It just means more dragons. But we're going to be dragons burning ships. I love the dragon naval battle dynamic. It was cool, even with the problems in the last season of Game of Thrones with Dany versus Euron's fleet. There was some major flaws that we don't need to go back and revisit. However, the dragons flying among the ships and the ships trying to harpoon the dragon. It's pretty good stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm excited. And yeah, like you mentioned, Laenor, like the actor they chose, I mean, my gaydar has been like off for years, so whatever that's. But the actor they chose like doesn't scream gay to me. So like I'm excited to see how they use him just in the show. Like I feel like he's not just gonna be off screen at Driftmark, that he has a sword in every scene that I've seen him in. Like, I feel like maybe he's going to be, like, more into it. All the guys that he chooses in the books are, like, really great swordsmen. So that makes me think that maybe he is as well.
That would make sense to me. And again, Fire and Blood, as a writer, you're only given a few details about each character. So you take those details and you then do the exercise of, well, what might this character have been like, and how would they might have done this? And just like what you said, oh well, they keep dating swordsmen. Maybe he's, and make your swordsman jokes, I guess, but your sword fight jokes. But yeah, no, that does say something. And I did the same thing in the Damon's Ladies video. I was like, let's look at the women that he's associated with and see what that tells us about Daemon. And it tells us.
I can't wait for that video. That's
It's
gonna be
coming.
good.
Like I said, if HBO will just stop inviting me to Hollywood events, then I could finish the video.
That's gonna be good.
No. Guys, I'm lucky and flattered, and I felt very out of place at the after party. I gotta say, I'm not there yet to being able to rub elbows with these folks and feel like I belong. But I'll get there, maybe. But to be honest, Nettles and Tim, like I said on the stream, I was just so excited about how good the episode was that I was just like, what am I doing here at this cocktail party? I was like, I need to make 5,000 videos.
No.
But
No.
yeah, it's just
Enjoy yourself.
it's just like I said, we didn't know if we'd have another, kind of halfway enjoyable but often disappointing thing on our hands, or something we could really sink our teeth into. So we're just so happy to know that we're gonna get treated to something really nice. So the Corlys Valerion thing, they become friends through this war, and it goes all the way to Daemon being crowned, and we've seen the scene in the preview where Daemon's got a kind of an Ironborn looking driftwood crown of some kind, something like that, and
Not impressed.
so yeah, so basically, like, what's happening here, Tim? It's kind of like not only is Daemon just keeping busy, but it seems like he's kind of trying to prove himself to his brother, isn't it? Like, he's gotten kicked out of King's Landing. Otto was successfully talking shit about him to his brother. He's been ostracized. This rift is growing. But then he goes and takes care of one of Westeros's problems. And he crowns himself king as if to say, I could rebel and really be a problem. But instead, I'll just show up at King's Landing and say, how'd you do, Your Majesty? Look what I've done for you. And here's my crown, and also Kragas's crab hammer, apparently. But it really is like he's trying to prove himself to his brother, isn't it? It's kind of sweet. It's kind of touching.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's like because even when Daemon and Corlys are in the middle of the war, like the comment Viserys makes is, "Let Daemon play at war; it keeps him busy," and it seems like almost as if Viserys was kind of glad to be rid of him for a while. But then the way that he immediately welcomes him back, I think, like, as the years drug on and this war continued, the time apart probably is that's like how Daemon hardens his heart.
It's just a lot of Sir Otto. It's a lot of Sir Otto doing this year after year after year. He's like, Daemon, it's so nice to see you.
But I think, like, just like how, again, like, comparing it to my relationship with my own brother, though, when we have, like, this, as long that huge time apart, it, like, softens you up, and then when you see each other again and it's been so long, you immediately think of the good things, and whatever bad blood happened last time is like, oh, well, that's in the past. Let's, now's now. Let's do that. Like, let's again, like, I can only harp on this because I just love the dynamic. It feels feels more personal to me as someone who's had this type of relationship with their own brother. Like, I can really empathize with both Damon and Viserys, the constant back and forth, but always coming back to one another type deal.
And I have a feeling that the show's going to make us cheer when they're reconciled, just like the people are. Even if we've taken one side or the other, it's like ultimately when they clasp each other on the shoulder and have that fraternal Targaryen brotherhood, it's going to make us feel good. Right, girl?
Wait.
Come here. So
after Corlys, we have Laena. Do you think he manipulated Laena, or do you think it was true love?
Oh, that's a hot romance right there. Cue the careless whisper. That's give me the saxophone. It's no, that's or any 80s saxophone will do the trick. But yes, I totally think this is legit. I mean, just think about who Laena is. She's very impressive. She's exactly the kind of person.
Bitch.
Take it away. Tell us.
I'm just saying she's a bad bitch just from claiming Vhagar. It wasn't a man that did it. I just want to, when we talk about worthiness, it wasn't a man that claimed Vhagar. It was Laena. She seems headstrong, even because she was actually a contender to be wed to Viserys. And where other girls would have been like at court, like ready to be like, oh, choose me, choose me. She was just like, I'm doing my own thing. I have my own goals. I'm riding my dragon. I'm not concerned about it. So, and then I do think that the Valerians, with their power, sometimes in the storyline, they're equal to Targaryens. She's a woman that has agency, where it's like, I truly believe that just as much as Daemon chose her, she chose Daemon as well.
That's exactly right. She has agency, and she's, again, exactly, why wouldn't you fall in love with her? She's 22 at this point, and back at the age of 12, when she was considered to be Viserys' second wife, the small council, it says, was all in unanimous consent that she would make a great queen. So some of her abilities were already evident at 12,
At 12.
And she had already claimed Vhagar. So it's a very promising young Targaryen princess in the family here. She was considered for this thing. Viserys is the one who was like, no, I want to marry Alicent. Well, we don't know the whole truth. I mean, the Maesters, Hightowers, whatever. But the story we
that
get...
was kind of weird that he didn't choose Laena.
Well, it is. And choosing Laena would have sewn up that rift between Valerian and Targaryen. So not choosing Laena actually served the cause of war if the Maesters are... That's why I say it's complicated. But the point is, Laena was qualified and promising at that point. So then fast forward, she's now 22. Prime of her life, beautiful, riding the dragon for a long time now. So yeah, Daemon shows up. He's charmed, and you look like you want to say something, Tim. Go for it.
I was just saying, like, it seems natural because, like, she's beautiful. She's the daughter of the richest man in Westeros. She's got the biggest dragon. She's got great big tracts of land.
You know, huge it's all tracts of open land, the biggest in Britain. Yeah, that's exactly, yes.
Yeah, I feel like it's like an Arya archetype as well.
And then what do? They go flying their dragons together. They go on a world tour of Essos. They maybe fly to old Valyria. And by the way, I think the show is going to have them go to Valyria because it's playing up the Valyrian stuff so much. I have to at least think they fly on the outskirts, at least see it, from afar or something. They'll probably land somewhere and get some artifact or something. I totally think that's coming, just a prediction. But yeah, that's not a fake romance. That's not a political romance. And the only reason to think that it is if you're just already convinced that Daemon is just trying to be ambitious and that's his motivation. But it's not. Daemon, his motivations are all emotional and personal. He wants to not feel constrained. He wants to do what he wants. He wants to give Mysario a dragon's egg if he wants to. Like, he wants to marry Rhaenyra at a certain point when she's young. Like, he does things for more reasons of passion, not politics. So yeah, I totally think the Laena Daemon thing is going to be super hot. It's going to be, storybook romance. And of course they have two awesome kids, Rhaena and Baela, right? So yeah.
Yeah. The only thing suspicious is her death. Like that, I think that's the only wedge that people can kind of speculate if it wasn't really nice. Is just...
Well, the fact that Daemon gets to... Well, so Daemon goes to Rhaenyra within a year, and they marry soon after. So, yeah, it does... You could tell a suspicious narrative there, or you could say that Daemon and Rhaenyra's companions all died at the same time. Like, Rhaenyra lost Laenor and Harwin in the same year that Daemon lost Laena. So, like, they really were alone and had already established a romance earlier when they were younger. So it's believable that it's genuine and that they did a little trauma grief bonding and just went with it. But yeah, I mean, if you want to believe the nefarious version, then they both knocked off their significant others so that they could marry each other. But then Corlys must not have believed that because he turns around and allies with Daemon and Rhaenyra. And Rhaenyra betroths her kids to
and Rhaena.
Right. So yeah.
And the second born, not Jace, but Luke, is
Lucerys.
Is the heir. Yeah, Lucerys is the heir to Driftmark. Like, Corlys and Viserys are drinking some powerful Kool-Aid to not see the Strongs. They're Strongs, okay? So it's like, damn, Corlys names Luke as the heir of Driftmark. Okay.
Yeah, I think they're thinking more in terms of.
Okay.
I'm curious to see how they play that too. If it's Kool-Aid or if it's just political expediency. He's like, yeah, they're Harwin's kids, but I've just engaged them to my known Valerian kids, the ones that Daemon had with Laena. So it's, therefore it's the same thing eventually.
Yeah,
But
they're dragon riders.
yeah, and
That's.
go ahead, Tim.
I was gonna say, like, I think with for me, it's Viserys is in denial. I think Corlys knows, but is willing to overlook it. One, because his son is playing the part of father. Because even though I don't know how they're gonna do it on the show, but it seems to me like even though Rhaenyra and Laenor were not sexually attracted to each other, they still seem to. There kind of could be this still. Like, there still could be, like, this platonic love because Laenor is still willing to play the role of father and take these kids. Like, he's not dismissing them. He's still, because it does him a favor. It allows him to have sons without actually putting in the work of making sons. And I think Corlys is willing to overlook that, and even more so when the kids become dragon riders, because it's like, oh, well, they may not be my blood, but they're definitely useful, and they have my name, and that serves enough purpose for me.
Yeah, any girl who's had like a gay best friend, at some point you think about marrying them. Like you do, because it's just like you could see it happening, and like the conversations are flowing.
Like, it's just easier.
Yeah.
So and Marv's here in the chat brings up the line from the House of the Dragon trailer. History does not remember blood; it remembers names. So that's just it. Like, who was actually the father? Well, who does everyone think it is? That's actually the more important thing. So, and with the thing about the strong, the Strongs, Jason Lucerys, they ride dragons. And that's, at the end of the day, kind of what this is all about. The Targaryen claim to power is based on dragons. So if the kids can ride dragons, they are important. They are not people that you want to dismiss and get rid of their claim. Be like, oh no, those are legit. Yeah, they're dragon riders. They're true blue. So I think that's part of it too. Utilitarianism in a sense. Paul Shelton, are we excited about the Red Kraken, Dalton Greyjoy? I suppose we are. When his time comes. Oh, Tim, you look excited. Go for it.
Well, I mean, anyone who's been on my channel and it seemed like knows how deep in the weeds I go with the Ironborn stuff. So I'm very excited to see the Red Kraken. I mean, I know it's probably not going to be more like a season 2, season 3 till he actually shows up, but I definitely want to see Dalton on screen.
Yeah. I just hope, like, my one wish for the show is, like, I don't want to just see King's Landing. Take us to the north, take us to the Vale, take us to Essos. I need to know what's going on at this era because it's popping. Westeros is popping.
Well,
like, it's not Aegon's time. We've actually established castles. We have the King's Road. Like, this is like, it says it in the text. This is the prime of Viserys' rule with the Tourneys and everything. This is prime of the Targaryen reign.
So I know we're gonna see a lot of Driftmark and Harrenhal. We got to see Old Town at some point. I'm curious to see what we'll get of Essos when Damon and Laena do their thing. A lot of that'll be CGI, but they'll give us something of it. So yeah, we'll see. And as the seasons go on too, I think they always add a couple new locations every season. I think that'll be similar too.
Children of the Forest.
What's that?
I said Children of the Forest. I want to see them just adding on, like,
throw them in there.
It's asking too much, but I would love to see.
They're always working.
Yeah, they're around. I mean, we have to see what they do with Mysaria, what kind of magical connection she has. They are, keeping the Weirwoods in the background there, so we'll have to see.
I was gonna say, like, it's asking too much, but I would love to see just a little bit of the stop off in Norvos and Qohor that Daemon and Laenor do on their honeymoon, because those are just like among the free cities, like Norvos, Cohort, Lorath. Those are the weird ones. Those are the ones you never hear much about.
I'm guessing that's going to get cut. I'm just to get you prepared. I'm thinking they'll go to You'll see Pentos and maybe Valyria, like I said, and that's maybe.
Dang.
I
was hoping they would drag this out. Like, they have the material to like do 10 seasons, I think. But I know they won't. It
looks like they're going to do more like 4 and then move to a different time period and eventually work their way back to the Doom. So that's pretty exciting too.
Okay.
So yeah, like I said, I want to avoid going through all the details of all the women because I've got a video coming out about that.
Yeah.
But Tim and Nettles, what I would like to ask you is just, again, the broad level emotional points that we have with Daemon. We got Laena, and then we've got obviously Rhaenyra. I spend a bunch of time on Daemon's relationship with Rhaenyra. Obviously, that's the most important one.
It's the longest.
Yeah, I mean it's
for being his
what do you guys want to say just in general about the Rhaenyra Daemon relationship? Obviously, we're going to watch it unfold on the TV show, so we'll see. But what do you think about that? I mean, just in general. Go ahead, Tim. Why don't you go first?
Well, I characterized it as like it's a marriage of highs and lows, obviously, because it's in the middle of this war, but the big question of is it one of love or is it one of ambition? Because of the way that Fire and Blood always seems to make Daemon out to be jockeying for different power positions,
and perhaps mutual ambition. Like it could just be they're almost making an allyship at that point if it's not romantic, right? Like.
And I think, like, why not? It's probably a bit of both. It serves a purpose for both of them, but that does, and I mean, yeah, it gives Daemon the position of king consort, and it gives a powerful ally for Rhaenyra. But that doesn't mean that there couldn't also be like an actual real love between the two because of how much time they had spent together. With when Daemon was married to Laena and when Rhaenyra was married to Laenor, the four of them are besties. So even when they're married to other people, they're going to be spending a lot of time together. That it seems obvious that they would grow close like that.
Yeah, and if you look at the early relationship, Daemon they're bringing her gifts and calling her the most beautiful woman in the kingdom, and they're flying their dragons together. It's like there's something going on there. So, yeah.
I think when I read Fire and Blood, for some reason, I'm problematic. I cheered when they finally got together because it's like they wanted to be together from the beginning, and then of course, like Otto. I blame 100% of the dance on Otto and his stupid bitch daughter, Allison. And so, like, Otto got in the way of it. That's what I'm saying. And so it's like, okay, so Rhaenyra has to, like, look elsewhere. And so she goes for Kristen Cole. That doesn't work out. She goes for Breakbones. That doesn't work out. She does marry Laenor. And she's doing all these things because under threat. Because her father literally said, I will take the throne from you if you don't marry Laenor. So it's like, I think a lot of women feel that way. Sometimes it could be love, but it could be like a career choice or whatever, where you know what you want, but it's not wise for you to go after that because of X, Y, and Z, because of responsibilities, whatever. And so going through her whole life, children, all this stuff, and then when they finally got together, I fucking cheered. I don't know why, but I fucking cheered because it seemed like that what is it called? Romeo and Juliet? Not unrequited love, but there's a name for it. That's star-crossed?
Star-crossed lovers. Yeah, I was trying to say it. Yeah.
It seemed like star-crossed love. So I cheered, especially because like they were older in age when they finally did get together. They had lived, and so and for them to still find each other at the end, like. I like it.
No, I think people will cheer for them for sure. And another point I made in the video that hasn't come out yet is just that like Rhaenyra's by the age of 14, everyone's already plotting to steal her shit. Like, so she doesn't have many allies. Her uncle Damon is one of the people that she really knows is on her side. So, and to your point, Nettles, there's always a certain amount of practicality when you're choosing a life partner. Like, it's not just about who makes your heart go pitter patter. Like, at some point you stop and assess like what kind of person they are and what you're signing up for by marrying this person. So it's always some middle ground of practicality and romance when you're talking about. And in a medieval world, the practicality is only even more emphasized, especially when you're talking about the stakes involved with Damon and Rhaenyra. So, all right. Let's see here. What's in this section? The light and the dark. What's going on here, Tim?
So this, like, when we go back to that quote, to some he was like the blackest of villains, and it brings me back to like Damon, because of his actions, he's going to do is he's a very gray character is the thing. Like, he's gonna do terrible, horrible things, but he's also gonna do very noble things, and that's why we say like the light and the dark as far as Damon, because things like blood and cheese are going to be through Daemon. Like, that's Mysaria is the one who hires them, but Daemon's the one who goes to her, and Daemon is the one who's going to say a son for a son after Luke's death. But Daemon's also going to make that his biggest moment is going to be that noble sacrifice he makes when he fights Aemon One Eye above the God's Eye. So it's like it's a very the duality of man type deal that we see with Daemon, is that a man who could do this big noble heroic act is also capable of committing these horrible things, like like facilitating the murder of a child.
There you go. That's well said, and I think we're gonna see both sides of that. I've already been giving you the idea that Daemon's going to be likable and charismatic, but I don't think they're going to whitewash anything either. It's not going to be a Tyrion redux where it's like, well, he's charming, so let's not make him do anything too bad. And by the end, Daemon is all like, I have to say, not only was the writing for Tyrion bad in the last like 3 to 4 seasons, the acting wasn't very good either. I'm sorry, Peter Dinklage, but like, I think he is way overrated. And I think his Tyrion performance was like badly overwrought. Like, in the first few seasons, it's great. Like, his moment in the trial where Tyrion's on trial and he's giving us that speech, that's one of the best things in the whole movie. Yes, goosebumps. But his I know Tyrion voice that he used in the last seasons, it's just like he became like
spot on.
He became self-parody. I felt like it's like he became self-parody. And I was just watching back on some of his stuff from the last seasons. I didn't think it's very good. It's not just the writing; it's also the like Peter Dinklage reveling in his own Dinklageness or something. I don't know. That's just my heresy my second heresy. I don't like kids or Peter Dinklage. Or birthdays, or rainbows, or ice cream, or no, I'm kidding. So
I want to say Toxoplasma Gandhi. They just said that, like, it's funny that people are up in arms about the niece and nephew thing, but we were cheering on for the Johnny and Danny dynamic, niece and nephew.
I'm sorry, so I just did a chat ADD. What did you say? I'm sorry.
I said that Toxoplasma Gandhi. They were saying that people are like, ew, about the
uncle fucking.
Rhaenyra, uncle fucker. Rhaenyra and Damon thing. Well, we cheered for like John and Danny. And that kind of changed my mind on it too, because like the chemistry between John and Danny, like I was cheering for that. So I wonder if the Damon and Rhaenyra will kind of be the same. Make us forget that they're niece and nephew.
Yeah, I mean, they're lizard people, so the rules are different. I don't know what to say. Like, it's
the rules are different, but us as the viewers, like, some incest we're okay with, and others that we're not. Like, I know most people still can't get over Jaime and Cersei, but
There's some
Targaryens.
deep look. People ask why George put so much incest in this story, and the answer is like it's deep Freudian marketing techniques. I think that's what it is. Like it's something he's
Well,
messing
in
with
real
people's
life,
ends.
isn't that how it was in real life? Like the real like English monarchy, like in the beginnings of it.
Well, cousin
Like
marriage is still really common all around the
cousin.
world. So,
Yeah.
won't we be seeing House Blackwood and Bracken? Paul Shelton says. Yes, I suppose we should. In the second half of the general story, yeah, they're both involved in the war. All the Riverlands houses are heavily involved in the war. Once it gets going, most of the
Yeah.
big houses of the nation are, but they actually fight in the Riverlands. So
I would say like
Benjamin?
season 2, when the war really picks up, that's when we're gonna get like Bloody Ben and places and
yeah, and
guys like
that
that, the River
Roddy the
Lords.
Ruin and stuff. Yeah,
I can't wait to see Roddy the Ruin.
Oh, the
hell
fish
yeah!
feed, the fish feed.
What a great name. Monica says, how do you think the relationship between Damon and Rhaenyra will be when she is young and adult, from romantic side to political allies? We just answered that question, but I just wanted to shout out Monica for the super chat. We were already
Yay,
talking.
Monica!
We were already talking about that. So let's see here. And so you were saying, so going back to this legacy of Daemon winning, we talked about the fact that his kids, sit the throne. So here we go. I'm just spoiler alert. Speaking about the last dragon fight that Daemon has in the battle. Okay, so this is something that will definitely be depicted on House of the Dragon. Most of the dragon fights end with one or both dragon riders and dragons dead or really hurt. That's kind of how it goes. So Daemon's last fight. Most people know it. It's the one over the God's Eye, him and Aemond One Eye. And the interesting thing is that the war has almost run its course. Like there's still armies moving around, but both sides are decimated. Many dragons have died. and the question is, why does Daemon do what he does? Hang on a second. Where's my cough button? Daemon basically Aemond One Eye is running a terrorism campaign. He's slashing and burning all over the Riverlands, just causing a problem for the Blacks who occupy King's Landing. And so Daemon goes out and he's hunting for him every day. And so he does this thing, right, where he jumps from the one dragon to the other. He kills his nephew, or maybe his son, Aemond. Vhagar and Caraxes both die. I had always looked at this thing as like heroic and badass and amazing, and it was basically Daemon settling this grudge that he had with Aemond One Eye, because that was just the last thing left to do. But it occurred to me in the last couple days that it was highly strategic, because Vhagar is this immovable, unstoppable force like we've been talking about. You can't deal with him, and as long as Vhagar and Aemond were alive, his side was never going to be able to declare victory. And so he essentially sacrificed himself in Caraxes to take out the biggest piece on the other side of the board, knowing that if he did that, his remaining forces could essentially mop up, which is more or less what happened. So it's actually pretty noble what he did, isn't it?
If he's dead, we have no proof. We have no proof.
Well, regardless of the outcome, it's still a
Yes.
sacrificial act. So
It's sacrificial, and it does show. And the thing that I love, because I'm a small person, I'm 5 foot tall, so I've like navigated the world with a different view because of that. And to see that Aemon was walking around like his shit don't stink. I have the biggest dragon. No one can beat me. He's out here. He beat Rhaenys and stuff. He killed Luke. Like it wasn't even a fight. Like he's just, hey, I have the biggest dragon. And to see Daemon doesn't have the biggest dragon, and for him to be able to beat him, that's the symbolism that resonates with me. Is that it's not always the biggest and strongest that wins. It's sometimes the most strategic, or the one willing to sacrifice themselves for that move. And a lot of people, like, we know Daemon leapt off the dragon to kill Aemon One Eye, but Vhagar died as well. So that means that Caraxes must have put in some work. Caraxes was biting necks. Caraxes was ripping off wings because it's very probable that Daemon could have killed Aemon and Vhagar could have flown off if Vhagar truly was the strongest dragon. So that battle, it means so much symbolically, the storyline, visually. I mean,
I think the key is that he attacked from above, so he gave Caraxes a clean shot.
Exactly.
And given the clean shot, the dragon will go for the neck, I think we can assume. So Caraxes got a hold of that neck, and Vhagar ripped his wing off and was like fucking him up, but like Caraxes wouldn't let go, and that was that. Like he had the neck, he was big enough to hold on, and that was a death grip, you know. So, and Daemon probably planned that out. I mean, that's the whole thing with not chaining up his saddle. He knows how the dragon's going to attack. He knew how he was going to attack, and that they'd end up in that death grip, and then it would be close enough for him to get his hands on Aemon. The thing that seems personal about it is like, if they're all plummeting to the lake, they're all going to die anyway, but he bothers to go over and stab him just to like make the point or whatever. It's obviously a better story that way, but it feels emotional. It feels like Daemon's like, the last thing I'm going to do is fucking kill you. Myself, and I'm not gonna let the water do it, you know. So again,
so I have a theory, and if I'm right in the show, I want everyone to like cash at me $100. So Daemon, you know, strikes that killing blow, and then Nettles swoops in with Sheepstealer, and Daemon jumps on Sheepstealer too, and then they like ride off.
That's the scene we didn't see. Yeah, the dramatic rescue. That would be sweet. That is more believable than him.
If that happens, remember it here, folks.
We will. That's a good call. That's calling your shot there. Minty likes it. All right, cool. Well, I think this is probably a good place to stop. So this has been delightful, guys. Tim, you have a cause that you would like to mention, so go ahead and do that, and then we'll drop everyone's links again.
Okay. Not to be a downer, but recently a good friend of mine, Nick Eck, he's an artist friend of mine who created my sigil and my King and Yell stuff on my channel. His mother recently passed away from lymph node cancer, and my own mother had her own bout with liver cancer. Now, I'm glad to say she made a recovery. But one thing that I wanted to do, and I ran this by Dave, is when House of the Dragon premieres, when we do the super chat revenue, I wanted to donate my portion of it to American Cancer Society, and Dave very graciously said no, like that's a very good cause. We should all do that. So what we're going to do is August 21st, when we do the premiere of House of the Dragon, 1/3 of the super chat revenue is going to be donated to American Cancer Society in honor of my friend Nick Eck's mother, who recently passed. And I wanted to share that with you. I want to share Nick's to go follow my friend Nick on Twitter and his Instagram, Sleep After Saving. He's a very talented artist. He's one of my best friends. And this is something that, since I've been given this opportunity that Dave has given me on this channel with this many followers, I realized, like, if I'm going to be given a platform like this, then I want to do good things with it. And so that seemed like a great thing to do for my friend and for someone who's also dealt with this personally. And I'm sure a lot of people in the chat have dealt with something like this. And
yeah,
so,
everybody knows somebody that's dealt with that. Yeah, so that's awesome, Tim. And yeah, of course, we always want to do good things in the world, make a difference in the world. Those are the people that George said are his heroes, the ones that try to make the world a better place. So there you go. So yeah, well, we'll see everybody, I'm sure, on the post game on week 1, but just a little extra something that we're doing, and we'll mention it again then. So there you go. Greyways, Tim, you're a special soul. We love you, and I'm very glad to have you on the House of Flying D's this season, and the same for you, Nettles. So really looking forward to it. I'm glad I got a little team here to talk about the show with, and of course, Minty will be around in the chat, or maybe even lurking in the hallway and yelling things from off the microphone, because you always need someone yelling distantly in the room. So there you go, guys. Thanks a lot, and I'll be seeing you next with the Damon's Ladies video during the week, and we'll have some sort of live stream again next Sunday Only got a couple left before the show, so it's we're getting to be about time there. Kyle Holmes says, "Grey Waste Tim, I'm not rich, but I love this community." Right on, Kyle. So yeah, there you go.
Yep.
All right, thanks, guys. Like I said, see you with a new video during the week, and you've been a beautiful audience. And House of Flying D's every Sunday. As soon as the show is over, we'll be going live, and we'll have the chat open for the live stream all during the episode and before the episode. So if you're the person that likes, basically instead of a Discord or some sort of chat thing where people can chat about the show in real time, you can just do it right here in the live chat below the stream, and then we'll go live as soon as the show's over, and that's how it's going to go. So there it is. All right, guys. Bye-bye.